Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Pickside Podcast. My name is Ja Morant and I'm here with River Brown. This is now episode 83. And today we have a guest, a good friend of Riv, and somebody I have a lot of Twitter back and forths with, Sebastian, NJ, New Jersey product. So in this episode, we are going to talk about the play-in, Ja Morant calling himself a top 5 point guard, the Wizards' hot streak, Michael Porter's emergence, NFL teams with the best and worst drafts, and Adam Schefter saying he had no sources for his report on Aaron Rodgers wanting out. This is now episode 83, and right now we are at 26 reviews on Apple Podcasts. So if you guys would like to go review our podcast, give us 5 stars so we can move up in the ranks. And this is going to be a great episode. We have some basketball topics. I know the season is nearing an end. We're about to get into play-in territory. And the play-in has been a very controversial topic to talk about because some people love the idea, other people's don't. So just recently, LeBron said that whoever came up with the idea should be fired. Luka and Mark Cuban did not like the play-in at all. And the format of the play-in is that the 8 seed is going to face the 7 seed. Whoever wins that game is going to be the 7 seed. And the 10 seed faces the 9 seed. Whoever wins that game faces the loser of the 8 seed versus 7 seed. And whoever wins the matchup between that one is the 8 seed. So the 10 seed and the 9 seed have to win 2 games. Whoever the 7th and the 8th seed are, they only have to win 1 to get into the playoffs. So what are your thoughts overall on the play-in? I know that you didn't like it at first, so I don't know if you changed your opinion on that.
No, I just think like teams who are 500 shouldn't be in it. You know, you look at the teams like the Wizards, and I know they're fighting hard and they're fighting late, but I feel like in a situation, I think it should be situational. You know, in a situation where teams are very close, like say for example, us 3, we all have our teams. Your team is 48 and 35. Your team is 47 and 36. My team is 45 and 34. I think that would inquire playing because our records are so close. But in a situation where records aren't that close, I don't think a play-in deems any purpose because you were garbage for most of the year, and the fact that you picked it up at the end, you shouldn't get rewarded for that.
I'm going to tally on what he said. I believe that it could be a little bit of a stretch to make it a 10-man team, but at the same time, you look at the teams that are going to make it in. You have Golden State with Steph Curry. You have the San Antonio Spurs, which were a dynasty until they all kind of, dispersed or retired or whatever it may be. But you have teams that have fan bases that are big for the NBA. You have the Washington Wizards, who are right now on a tear. They're entering in a hot streak, and right now I believe they can counterpart with anybody that's in the play-in. I think it's great for the NBA to add more fan bases into the playoffs, give it a little bit of juice that it was missing from earlier, because back then the AFC would probably be locked in maybe with 7 games left, and you would have a lot of players resting, where now as you have 2 other teams with maybe 2 potential teams playing in, you have a lot of teams now that are actually fighting for something. Now, the back end of the season is actually more meaningful, and I think with that going forward, I think it's going to be a lot more productive for the NBA.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I would think that you would love the play-in because your team went all in at the trade deadline, getting Nikola Vucevic, you're a Bulls fan, Riv, to try and get into the play-in and hopefully get a playoff spot. So I would think it would be great for you guys because most of the time you don't have a chance to get in the playoffs.
Let's be realistic. Nobody wants to see us in the playoffs. Nobody wants to see the Spurs. The Warriors, let's be honest, everybody only wants to see Steph. Pelicans.
And Draymond.
Nobody wants to see that. I'm
going
to be honest with you. Everybody wants to see Zion and the Pelicans just because of Zion. Like, I feel like if this was like remember back when this, like, in the West when it was like 9-10 teams that had about 40 plus, like if this was around that time, I feel like the play-in would have been that moment. And I feel like you can have it, but it's like situations. Like Sebastian said, yeah, obviously it's gonna bring more meaning for other teams late in the season. It's gonna be more intense. Like you see the Lakers are trying to push, you see Dallas is trying to push, Portland is trying to push because that means something. But at the same time, I feel like some teams don't really necessarily deserve to be in. I think they're just in it because they have that one guy that's, box office TV and that they need it for the money. I think some teams honestly, genuinely don't deserve to be in the playoffs because they've just been bad most of the year.
Now, I'll counterpart you with this. What would you think about Washington? You said it's situational. Right now, they're on a tear right now where they're just terrorizing everything. Westbrook is playing back to his MVP self.
Yeah.
what would you say in that situation where if he gets into this play-in and he takes Washington into the actual playoffs, then it makes sense as why the play-in is a factor.
And also to go on that point, Washington has been injured the entire year. So
that is true.
The play-in is also helpful for teams that maybe they're not as bad as their record shows because they have been hampered with injuries the entire year. And let's be honest.
But wait, Atlanta's been hampered with injuries.
Okay, yes, they have. But they also have more depth than Washington as a whole.
But are we going to play the injury excuse? Every team gets injured.
Yes, but we know that Atlanta would not be in this position if it were not for that coaching change. Scott Brooks is a bad coach. So, to be fair on that. I'm just saying, are we really going to say that there's a massive difference between the 10th and 7th seed or the 10th and 8th seed? I mean, regardless of who gets in between the 8th or 7th seed, we both know they're going to lose in the first round most likely. So if you can't win one game to get into the playoffs, do you really deserve to be in the playoffs? You have to win one game
with home court.
But that's one game. We know in the NBA you can lose at any moment. You can walk in and have a bad day and lose to a bad team. I mean, the Nets full strength lost to the Cavs twice, but we don't care about it because we know when it really matters, they would destroy them. One game can be
also
a defect.
Okay, that's true. But I'll also say there's a difference between knowing it's a whatever regular season game versus knowing the Nets versus Cavs. The Nets have to win to be in the playoffs. They would have blown out the Cavs.
That's true. But
even if Sexton would have got hot, they would have tried to lock him up.
That's true. I don't see a team that's like a 7th seed team that has 10 plus or 9 plus wins over a 10th seed team. I don't see them being in the same position. I'm looking at the Spurs. Why on earth should they be able to fight for a playoff spot? They've been bad as of late. In Washington, I understand they've been hot, but are we really going to reward them just because they've been hot as of late? I get it. They've been hurt, but let's be realistic. Every team has been hurt this year. This year has just been an injury-riddled season, and they just haven't been able to put it together.
I'll say this. Right now in the Eastern Conference, the difference between the 10th and 8th seed is 2.5 games.
Yeah.
The Heat would play the Hornets, and the Wizards would play the Pacers in the play-in games. Western Conference, the difference between the 10th and 8th seed is 2 games. The Blazers would face the Grizzlies, and the Warriors would face the Spurs in the play-in games. I mean, I think the play-in is a great idea because it gives a team an added incentive to not tank. We saw that example with the Bulls, and it allows teams who have dealt with injuries all year long to make a run and make the playoffs. And all around, I think this is just going to make basketball more competitive. We're basically getting a Game 7-like atmosphere with these play-in games walking into the playoffs right before the playoffs. We're getting great basketball to watch. I mean, it's going to drive up revenue. And I can understand that standpoint with the players don't really want it because, yes, they did, fight all year to get that seeding. And an argument I see, thrown around there is that last year was different, right? Because they cut the season short, and that's why they did the play-in. But this year is a weird season as well. We only have 72 games, and fans aren't even in the arenas for the game. So, I mean, it's not like this season is totally back to normal. This is also a weird season.
And just to piggyback off that, right now, the Wizards and Raptors are currently playing, and they're the 10th and 11th seeds.
Does anybody over here want to see the Raptors?
But I'm just saying.
I want to see the Wizards.
So let me throw both of you a scenario. Toronto, say for example, they by some miracle they get a 10th seed. Say for example they have a great day, shoot the lights out, they get into the playoffs as an 8th seed. Is that really going to bring in more revenue to watch Toronto, who's been relatively bad all year?
They're going to get swept.
Yeah, same thing with the Spurs. If they get hot and just beat Portland and they just jump to a 7th, 8th seed, do we really want to see them versus the Suns or Utah, or do we want to see Portland in?
I get it, but I'll give you another one. Westbrook. Do I want to see him in a playing game drop 30, 10, and 10? Yes, I do. Do I want to see Steph Curry against the Spurs in the play and drop 40? Yes, I do.
I agree. I think certain teams you can do that.
I just believe right now, if we're looking at the playing games right now, Heat versus the Hornets. Heat will win that.
No, we're not.
I don't care what happens. I don't care if it's just one game. The Heat will win that game. Yeah. Wizards versus Pacers. I think the Wizards would beat them. And the Pacers are higher. I think the Pacers can beat them, but I think the Wizards will beat them.
I think Washington will beat them, and I also think they'll also get the 9th seed as well.
And then if the Wizards play the Hornets in the next playing game, who's going to win that? I would pick the Wizards, and I want to see the Wizards in the playoffs. That's just me personally. Yeah. Then in the West, Blazers versus Grizzlies.
I don't want to see San Antonio in the playoffs.
Okay,
I don't know about y'all.
No.
Let's just say the Blazers win that game versus the Grizzlies. If the Warriors face the Spurs,
it can go either way.
I believe the Warriors would win. Though.
I'm telling you, it can go either way.
I know it can go either way, but I think the Warriors would win.
Okay.
I'll say this. If the Spurs beat the Warriors, I think the Grizzlies will beat them. They will beat the Spurs.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes. But if it's the Warriors versus Grizzlies, that can go in either way because we know Steph could just, be hot and drop 50. But I would rather see that. Like, I would rather these guys earn their spots. Like, I know they played a long season, but you're just asked to play one more game to secure your spot, to win one more game. I don't think it's too much to ask. It's not like a whole play-in tournament. Like, it adds a sense of randomness to it. And I think the only people that are complaining about this are the players that are now in the position to maybe be in the play-in. Like, LeBron was not talking about this until he was a 6th seed and about to be the 7th. Luka and the Mavs were not talking about this until they were the 7th seed and about to be in the play-in. Like, if they had a top seed the entire year, they would not say anything about it. That's why the top teams have not said it. I haven't heard Chris Paul talk about it. I haven't heard Donovan Mitchell talk about it. I haven't heard anybody that's a top seed talk about this because they don't care if it's not affecting them.
Yeah, I definitely get where you're coming from.
And the reason why I brought up the Raptors and Wizards is, one, because if right now we had the old current format, the Hornets are the 8th seed. They're 12.5 back of the number 1 seed. You have the Raptors that are 18 back. That's 6.5 difference or 5.5 difference. They're tanking. They're no longer playing any meaningful games the rest of the year. The fans are no longer intrigued in a sense. Right now they're in a game where they have a chance to get into the play-in with the Wizards. So right now today they're playing meaningful basketball. If this wasn't around, Toronto would not be playing meaningful basketball. They'll be Tampa on the beach the rest of the season.
Yeah, Malachi Flynn will be playing 50 minutes a game right about now.
No, he's ridiculous. Like, I agree with you. I think like it warrants for some teams, obviously Washington, Warriors, the exciting teams. For teams that really we don't need to see, I think like certain aspects it should be involved to playing. I think sometimes it could work. Sometimes in the East for right now, I think because 6 to 10 is so close, I think definitely the play-in should be good because Miami and Boston could be in the play-in in a couple days. So I think in the East it definitely should be used. I think in the West though, some teams I think the play-in, for teams like the Pelicans and the Spurs, it was just trying to get them in for revenue. Definitely the Pelicans trying to get them in just for revenue.
And they still have a shot.
Yeah, they do, which is crazy to me. But
San Antonio has lost 5 straight.
They suck. They really suck.
I just wanted to piggyback to one of the years that the play-in was not around. So 2018-2019 season, in the Eastern Conference, the Pistons made the playoffs as an 8th seed. The Hornets with Kemba were the 9th. And the Heat were 10th at 39-43. So would I have wanted to see the Hornets with Kemba over the Pistons? Probably. Then look at the Western Conference that year. The Clippers made the 8th seed with the, Lou Will, Harrell, and that team, Shea. The 9th and 10th seed were the Kings and the Lakers. So the Lakers with the healthy Braun, they missed the playoffs a year because Braun was hurt. Would I wanted Braun to get a chance to get into play-in? Yes. No. The Kings, I wouldn't have wanted to be in the play-in. I would have wanted them to be in the playoffs, but I would have easily wanted LeBron and the Lakers to
do what?
To be in the playoffs over the Clippers.
To play who? The Warriors? They were going to lose in 4 games.
I mean, even if that's true.
But the Clippers, let's be real, the Clippers were a more exciting series than the Lakers would have been.
If Braun is there, no.
I don't even think the Lakers would have beat the Clippers in the play-in.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. They did have Brandon Ingram, Lonzo.
Yeah.
I mean, they had talent. Kuzma.
Clippers would have only had to need 1 game. I feel like they could have took them out.
In 1 game, LeBron versus the Clippers, I'll take LeBron.
I'll take LeBron too. But that's my thing, though. The Clippers worked hard all year for them to lose 1 game.
The Clippers deserve to be in.
Yeah, some teams deserve it.
But also, LeBron was hurt the majority of the year. I mean, if LeBron is not healthy, then the Clippers win easily. But that's my thing, too. Like, if you're a far superior team than the 9th and 10th seed, you should have no problem beating these teams. That's true. So, regardless, the play-in, I think, is a great idea because, if you're this good, then you should beat those teams. I think there are certain years where teams are so close that they do need a chance to make the playoffs, like the Suns with Goran Dragic when they were the 9th seed. Like, they were like half or one game behind making the playoffs in the West.
48 and 34, I believe.
Exactly, and they didn't even get a chance to make it. It was
That's where playing is warranted, that moment right there.
Yeah, and I think with the plan, I don't know if the plan is going to be here to stay. I hope it is. But obviously, LeBron is asking for whoever made it to be fired. So we'll see, if they get fired or not, if this idea is going to be going to.
No, didn't Adam Silver do it?
He was a part of it, obviously.
Oh, yeah, it's quiet. LeBron don't got that much power.
Yeah, it's weird, though, because LeBron signed off on it before the year started.
Because they were like 3rd seed.
Yeah, but he signed off on it before the year started. Now he's kind of switching his stance, whatever. We're all human, but
I don't think he expected the Lakers to be where they're at now.
He didn't at all. He thought they were going to be good.
Yeah, he thought they were going to be at the top of the food chain.
He didn't think AD was just going to be playing GT every other day on live stream.
Killing Curry.
It's crazy.
That was ridiculous.
He has one win against Curry.
So the Bucks faced the Nets the other day. They actually faced them, I think, twice in the last week, and the Bucks beat them twice. They're 2-1 against the Nets this season. And to be fair, Harden hasn't played in 2 of those games. And the first one that the Nets did beat the Bucks in, Kyrie did not play either. So the Bucks have not faced a healthy Nets team yet. But I know, Riv, you've believed this entire year that the Bucks match up very well with the Nets. Yeah. You think they can beat them in the series you never said that?
I've never said that. You can ask him right here. I've never said that.
You never said that, but you said that they match up well.
Yes, that's what I said.
And I honestly believe that this could be a 6-7 game series because of the Nets injuries and the chemistry. I think the chemistry will probably be fine, but obviously the Bucks have, had way more time to mesh. But when they have played, I love the games. I mean, it's a playoff atmosphere. It feels like they're taking it seriously.
Every game
and
close.
Just to praise the Bucks a little bit, I think this team has a different feel to it. Eric Bledsoe was such a liability for them in the last couple of years because he's super inconsistent. But Drew Holiday is just such a better player than him all around. Defensively, he's better. As a shooter, he's better. Ball handler, he's better. Like, Drew Holiday is better all around. And I love the addition of P.J. Tucker. Like, P.J. Tucker
cooked.
P.J. Tucker is the Kevin Durant stopper.
What?
That's got to stop.
Let's maybe he's not going to hold Durant.
No, he's there
under a certain amount of points.
He's there every possession.
But Tucker, if there's one guy I want guarding Durant,
it's P.J. Tucker.
Not named Kawhi. It's P.J. Tucker. I wouldn't want anybody else guarding.
I would name a few more
Durant.
guys.
Durant's even said, they asked him on Twitter, who's the best one-on-one defender that you ever faced? And he said P.J. Tucker's hacking ass. So, Tucker is that KD stopper. They both went to college together. So, I mean, this team all around has a different feel to it. Obviously,
they went to college together?
Yeah, they did.
For real?
He played with LaMarcus Aldridge, yeah.
PJ was there?
Yeah, PJ was on that team.
Wow, he sucks.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. He was not playing.
So Giannis is having an MVP-like year, and they have good shooters. Bobby Portis, Brent Forbes. Like, this team has a different feel to it, but I think some teams get trapped in this, like, kind of space where they're good, but there are just teams that are better. Like, the Nets are a super team. It's going to be hard to beat them. So I don't know if they can make it to the finals this year and beat the Nets, but any other year, they would be one of my top 2 picks.
Like you said, both all 3 games, playoff atmosphere, great games. They gave us. I feel like every game both teams took it serious, brought their A games. KD and Giannis put on the show last 2 games. I think when Harden gets back, obviously it's going to be some adjustments. But from looking at the games, it seems like Mike Budenholzer is out coaching Steve Nash. In my opinion, I think he's beating him with the X's and O's, the defensive matchups. I think he's beating him with his system. And like you said, Giannis is starting to take them shots, and that's what we've been wanting him to do. The mid-range, the little pop-out shoot. He's taking the 3. And, with Brooklyn, they have a super team. Top-heavy talent is better than the Bucks. I think the Bucks are a little deeper, but I think top-heavy, Brooklyn has it. But with the matchups, like I kept saying, Drew Holiday is on Kyrie. Harden's probably going to be the kicker because I don't know if they're going to put Middleton on him or something, Tucker on KD, or you could put Giannis on KD, and then you just have Middleton on Harden. But they have the matchup so they can go small, big, whatever. It doesn't matter. And when you look at Steve Nash, Brooklyn doesn't have a Miami Heat team, a Toronto team where they can build a wall and stop Giannis. I don't think they have that personnel. I think they're just going to have to listen, we're gonna just have to outscore them every game. And I think the Bucks know that they can't stop the Nets. I think they're realizing they're gonna have to score too. And you saw it the last 2 games. Granted, Harden wasn't there, but on the other side, I don't think Harden's gonna stop them defensively. So you can kind of talk about the Bucks on offense. I think they showed it. Chris Middleton stepped his game up. Drew Holiday stepped his game up. Giannis, he stepped his game up. Dante DiVincenzo, he played good. PJ Tucker, he was in there for defense. He made KD work for, granted KD's KD, but he made KD work for every bucket. He was there at every possession. Brook Lopez was playing a big role when he got his minutes. So it's the little things. And I think the Bucks, like I've been saying, they have the best personnel in the East, one of the best in the league to really match up well with the Nets. With the Nets, the only thing that's going to hurt them, I think, is the chemistry problems and injuries. I think they have everything they need to win the championship. They have everything they need to beat the Bucks. The Bucks are going to walk in as underdogs, so they really have nothing to lose. And the chip is on the Nets' shoulder. They have to win that series. But I think all in all, they gave us a great 3 games. First game, KD shut it down. Next 2 games, Giannis put on the show. And I like what we're going to see. I think it's going to be a 7-game series.
Well, you guys both know that I'm a diehard Nets fan.
That's sad.
And okay, that's but what I saw from those 2 games were actually very key. I saw KD and Kyrie were able to take the same amount of shots that they always take, but be efficient with it. Kyrie was a little off his first game. Second game, he bounced back tremendously. KD was kind of a little bit off in the second game. But when you look at what they were doing, the first game was decided by 3 points. KD had a chance to tie it, didn't make it, game over. Second game, I was watching it clearly that the Nets were up. They were up 6 or 7 points at one point, and then the Bucks just go on an 18-1 run. Dang. An 18-1 run. And throughout that run, now one timeout was called. There was no change in zone or man. Steve Nash just basically said in the postgame interview, I wanted to let them play and figure it out on their own. He called it problem solving. The playoffs is not time for problem solving. And I believe who's going to take charge in that will probably be James Harden. I believe James Harden's going to, figure it out on the floor without having to use those timeouts where to put the players. And KD and Kyrie are going to have to just rely on each other just to get the open shots. They have one of the best 3-point shooters in Joe Harris. And just to piggyback off what Joel said, the Bucks can shoot the 3 like any other team in the league. They just have shooters everywhere. Pat Connaughton, DiVincenzo can shoot the 3. Lopez can shoot the 3. Giannis is getting better.
Drew can shoot that shit too.
Drew can shoot it. I mean, Chris had a weird year this year. He's just I defend Chris Middleton to the death, but it's just he's had games where he just goes non-existent.
That's been the playoffs for him too.
Yeah, and he can't afford that this year. This year he just can't do it. If you're going to be the number 2 on that team, you can't do it. But I believe Brooklyn wins the series. I believe that the Bucks might even jump out to a 2-1 lead or something of the sort, and kind of shake up that Nets team and be like, okay, this is the playoffs. We can't be doing this no more.
What Steve Nash is doing is so Steve Kerr-like. Like, you can just see it in why he was there. Like, he's let them problems because he has the team. So he's just like, he doesn't really have to coach. Like, leaving DeAndre Jordan on an island first game was ridiculous. Like, just letting him be out there by himself, no help. Like, you can switch. I fully believe you can switch KD on Giannis, and you can get a better result than what DeAndre Jordan was doing.
They tried Blake Griffin game 2. Same result.
That's what, like, it was just like DeAndre's just standing there letting him get, like, you don't, as a defender, I get somebody can't shoot, but you don't let them get to their spot because then you're just making it easy for them. You at least make it hard for him. Like, you're just letting him get to his spot in the paint and then let him take that little, whatever he wants to call that, the little mid-range float or whatever, and it's just going to be easy for him. So it's like, it's just little things like that they have to work out.
And I think the greatest part about what the Nets did is they showed you their game plan in a sense against them. They showed you part of their game plan is going to be letting Giannis shoot. If Giannis wants to take that pull-up 3 or that open 3, they're going to let him shoot. DeAndre Jordan was turning his back on him.
Yep.
And another thing for that last game, that third game, like KD said in the post-game interview, they shot 14 more shots than them. The Nets missed 10 free throws. They were on fire from 3, but that's about it. So if you take into account most of the things that went wrong and went terribly wrong for the Brooklyn Nets, they could have 3-0'd the Bucks in this regular season series. So it's going to be a very interesting series, but we'll see how it plays out.
Out of all the important players on the Bucks, Brook Lopez actually shoots the worst percentage from 3 at like 35%.
Yeah.
So
wait, are we counting Giannis?
I wasn't kind of Giannis because he's the guy who's gonna really create.
But you said most important, my fault.
That's like Giannis shoots 31% from the
it's
three.
Getting better.
Yeah, so he's getting better, but still pretty bad. But Giannis, what I love about him is that he's taking the threes though. Like he's taking those shots. Like if you're gonna dare him to shoot it, he's gonna take it. There'll be some games he goes 2 for 8. There'll be some games he goes 4 for 8 though.
Just keep taking them.
He does sometimes go on a little stretch, and I think James Harden is that missing piece. Obviously, he's the best player on Brooklyn right now. There's no doubt about it. And, people love to think it's Kevin Durant, but you look at the record with James Harden and without James Harden. Obviously, the win-loss column shows that Harden is the most important player on that team, and he's the best player. Look, all respect to Kevin Durant. He's an all-world scorer. But James Harden just makes that team go. James Harden could be the first-seeded Suns team without Kyrie and without KD. I don't think KD can do the same without Harden or KD. So
he is their floor general. I'll give you
Harden.
that.
Harden is going to be that guy. And my prediction, obviously, I have the Nets winning the championship. I've had them winning the championship since they traded for Harden, and I think against the Bucks is going to be tough. Because they can go small. I mean, their small lineup looks really scary. I mean, Jrue Holiday, elite defender. Chris Middleton, he's a good to great defender on some nights.
He's a good defender.
He's manageable. And then Giannis, we know he's an elite defender. Then Tucker, probably the best in the league. And then we look at Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez can block some shots, so their small ball lineup looks very scary. And even if they want to put Tucker at center or Giannis at center and maybe even put Brent Forbes in the game, I mean, they can really go small.
He can shoot that ball,
and
he will shoot.
And that's why Tucker was such a important piece to get at the trade deadline. A lot of teams wanted him. The Heat, the Bucks, the Sixers. I thought the Nets should have got him because that would have been really good for them. But I think Tucker really makes them versatile in terms of what lineups they can play with. And Tucker has proven he can guard KD. He can at least make it tough on him. And when you put Jrue on Kyrie, Jrue, that was nice where he made him non-existent. I'm saying, and I know Kyrie's going through Ramadan right now.
They're gonna have those two are gonna have a very, very, very interesting series. They're gonna go back and forth.
It's just we're gonna have to see what happens. But all around, I still do have confidence in the Nets. But I think this series will easily go to 6 games, if not 7. Like I think it really will be a hell of a series.
Yeah, it sucks that we didn't get to see the Nets. First time it was just KD and Harden. They went crazy. Second time and third time it was KD and Kyrie. I wish we would have got to see a preview of it with all 3 guys. But, come playoff time, those 3 versus Giannis and his boys, it's going to be very interesting. I think we're on the collision course to see those 2 guys in the ECF. Hopefully, I don't want anybody else to spoil it. I hope we see it.
They'll be the semis.
Yeah. It's what?
Yeah.
Oh, they're third.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Whatever.
Philly's locked up in the number
Hate
1
Philly.
seed.
But I'm glad we get to see this matchup anyways. I think it's gonna go 6 at least, 7 games definitely. Either way, it's gonna be interesting. Giannis and his boys. It's really gonna come down to Steve Nash too. What is he gonna do in the playoffs? His coaching scheme. How is he gonna adjust? That whole problem solving, that was stupid. I'm not even gonna acknowledge that. That was just ridiculous. But he's gonna have to figure out his X's and his O's. And he has KD. He has Harden. He has the guys. So he's going to have to really show that he can coach. It's not just about the players. Coaches help win championships too. So he's going to have to put himself in that position.
2 teams that are also great right now are the Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns. The Jazz right now are 48-18. They're the number 1 seed. And the Suns are 47-19. They're the 2nd seed. And which team is a bigger threat in the playoffs? Like, I know that early in the season, the Jazz had all the hype around them. Even though they have stayed relatively steady throughout the whole year, the hype has kind of died down. Nobody's talking about them as much. Now we're all talking about the Suns. Chris Paul, MVP candidate, Devin Booker, all this other stuff. So, I mean, what team, if you're, let's say, if you're the Clippers or the Nuggets, what team are you trying to avoid, or would you be more scared to face in the playoffs? The Suns or the Jazz?
It's tough because I'm not too high on Phoenix, and it's not because they don't have talent. It's just the inexperience. Experience I think does play a huge part in the NBA in the playoffs. I think that's a big thing. And although they have Chris Paul, they have young guys like Devin Booker, Michael Bridges, DeAndre Ayton, who's never sniffed winning basketball in the NBA. So And then, with Utah, coming off a 3-1, they blew a 3-1 lead, but they've had some success beating Paul George, Carmelo, and they played James Harden and them boys twice, and Chris Paul, so they know what it's like. Donovan Mitchell, he's shown that he's a pretty impressive playoff performer this early in his career. Rudy Gobert is going to be Rudy Gobert. Mike Conley, over those Grizzly days, he's shown that he can really hoop. So I think in the end, I would put my safe bet in Utah. I just think they have the better personnel. They're one of the best shooting teams in the league. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league. They have their number one in Donovan. There is no split between two guys. Donovan is their number one guy in the go-to. Mike Conley is great. He's been playing excellent this year. He's a playoff performer. They got Bogdan. They got Joe Ingles. They got Jordan Clarkson. I know he shoots whenever he gets the ball, but he's looking like the sixth man of the year. He's been playing impressive. They have guys. So I think with this team, retooling after last year's blown lead, getting their guys healthy, I think I can put my safe bet in them and Quinn Snyder to definitely be a bigger threat than Phoenix.
Yeah, it's Utah for me. It's Utah for multiple reasons. They can shoot the lights out. They can lock you up, and they have that crunch time performer in Donovan Mitchell. Something with Phoenix that I saw a lot of this year was when they go down, they're out. Like, they kind of put their heads down, and that's because of their lack of experience for me and their youth. And I think that all gets better over time. And I think Chris Paul did help change that mentality a little bit. But we got to relax on the MVP talk with Chris Paul because I think Nikola already locked it up. And if it was anybody else, it would be Joel if he didn't get injured. But let's be realistic. Utah has shown us throughout the whole year that they're not a fluke or they're not just a team that's going to lay low in the playoffs. They come out and they've beaten a bunch of teams by 30-plus points. Like, they're here and they go for the kill when it's there. If they're up 15, they're going to make that point a 25-point lead, and I think that's going to help a lot in terms of the playoffs, and I don't see them losing in the first two rounds. I can see them going all the way to the Western Conference Finals.
The Jazz right now are third in points per game, third in opponents' points per game, and they're first in net rating. The Suns are eighth in points per game, seventh in opponent points per game, and fourth in net rating. So it's a close matchup. And if the Suns had a little bit more experience, I probably, would pick them because I'm very high on Chris Paul. I love Devin Booker. But if we're just going mano to mano, matchup versus matchup, let's just talk about the two teams. Chris Paul versus Mike Conley. Chris Paul wins that. Like, we know that, right? Donovan Mitchell versus
where it gets close.
Donovan Mitchell versus Devin Booker. Who
Donovan.
you taking?
I'm taking Mitchell.
Yeah, I'm taking Donovan Mitchell. Then you look at Royce O'Neal versus Mikal Bridges.
Anyways.
You're going Mikal Bridges.
Yeah. Anyways.
Then you look at Bogdan Bogdanović versus Crowder.
I'm taking Bogdan.
Yeah, I think
it's close, but I would
it
take
depends
Bogdan.
on who you want. I'll probably take Bogdan too. Then Rudy Gobert and DeAndre Ayton. I would go Gobert.
Yeah.
I know Ayton is he's starting to be an elite defender, but I'll go Gobert.
I think this matchup definitely favors Utah because they can use Gobert a lot more. Like, a lot more. I think with a team like the Lakers or the Clippers where they can go small, this would hurt Rudy. But a team that uses a big man, I think this is definitely going to show Rudy Gobert's worth in the playoffs, and this is going to be pretty good for him so he can show that he can maintain and keep that defensive stopper on DeAndre Ayton.
And then we talk about their bench. Like, the Suns don't have a duo off their bench as good as Jordan Clarkson or Joe Ingles. The Suns don't have anybody on their bench who can go out and drop 30 every night, and that's Jordan Clarkson for the Jazz. Like, who are you going to rely on, Cam Johnson or Cameron Payne? Like, I know those are pretty good players. Dario Saric, those are good role players, but they're not going to drop 30. Joe Ingles has been one of the more efficient players in the league this season. He's a point forward. So I think the Jazz are a scarier team because not only do the numbers show that they're a better team this season and they have better personnel, but they have been with each other longer. And also that you mentioned it, they have that playoff experience. Like, nobody outside of Chris Paul, Dario Saric, Jay Crowder, and Torrey Craig have playoff experience on that Suns team. And that's basically saying that the Suns' most important players in Booker, Ayton, Mikal, and Cam Johnson have no playoff experience whatsoever. So I would be more scared to face the Jazz, especially losing 3-1 last year and feeling like they have something to prove this season.
Even without the 3-1, people have been bashing Utah all year, treating them like a joke, not respecting Mitchell and Gobert in the All-Star game. So I know they have a chip to prove. And this guy, Mike Conley, he's been deep in the playoffs. He's been in deep runs, so he's going to be big for them. You know, they got Bogdan. They didn't have Bogdan last year in the playoffs. They got him back for this year's playoffs. So it's just like, you know, experience. It's the experience thing. You know, Utah and Phoenix. You know, Phoenix has been playing phenomenal. Shout out to Monty Williams. But I think experience is really going to hurt Phoenix. And a lot of these teams are going to outshine them because of that experience. You know, a lot of teams are this is probably the least experienced team walking into the playoffs out of the big team. So it's going to be tough for these young guys and for them to adapt because the whistle gets tighter. You don't get as many calls as you get in the regular season. Defenses get a little more aggressive. Schemes become harder. You know, you see the same team about 5-6 times in a 1 week, 2 week span. You know, you don't stretch it out. So it's going to be the same game plan. You're going to see a lot of some difficult things. So it's going to be the lack of experience that's going to really hurt them. But if they get past it, shout out to them.
I will say one thing, and I have a question for both of you guys. Where do you guys see Devin Booker in his first playoff performance? Do you see him as a guy that will come out and explode on the scene, or do you see him going through some rough patches in the playoffs?
I think because of the way he plays, you know, the fact that he doesn't rely on his 3-ball, he takes the mid-range, he'll go to the basket, he has the floater in him. I think his versatility on offense is what's going to keep him from struggling. I think he's going to have a lot of turnovers, though. He's going to take a lot of shots. His field goal percentage is going to dip, but I don't think he's going to fall off a cliff completely, though. I think he'll be all right. But, you know, he is 25, 26, so come on, man. But I think because of his versatility on offense, I think he'll be okay.
It really depends on how they game plan for him. You know, if they're coming out and they're saying, we're going to stop this guy and give him a James Harden-like treatment, double teaming him, I think he's really going to struggle. But if he, you know, if most of the series he's going to go one-on-one, coming off screens and stuff like that, I think he'll have a pretty productive series. So I think he'll play pretty good. You know, I think Devin Booker has been waiting on this moment since he got into the league.
For a while,
He's been waiting for
what
this.
I've seen from teams in Phoenix, I see a lot of them let Booker go off and stop everybody else. Like I've seen games where he goes off 30, 35, and they get blown out by 20. And, you know, you look at the box score, the team struggled, and he put on the show. I think that's the motto in going into Phoenix because Chris Paul is not at that age where he's going to really do all of that, especially at this point in the regular season. And, you know, these other guys, the young Michael Bridges, he's great, but he's, you know, kind of one-dimensional. He's not a guy that's going to get, like, he's kind of like a 3-and-D type of guy, Cameron Johnson, too. DeAndre, he's still young, but I think that's what teams game plan when they play Phoenix. So it's going to be – it's interesting to see. Utah has defenders that they can throw at him, but it's going to be interesting to see how they defend him.
I believe Devin Booker will struggle. I believe that he's going to force shots as his first. He's going to feel like he's the number 2, which he is. At the end of the day, I don't believe he's the number 1 option because at the end of the day, the ball is running through Chris Paul's hands the whole time. I think Devin Booker's going to struggle a lot, and his field goal percentage might shoot to where we've seen some players shoot below. We've seen Harden go down to the 30s. We've seen Westbrook go down to the 30s. We've seen a lot of players go down to those field goal percentage in series and games, and you know it, and we all know it. I think he's going to try to do too much, but he's going to learn for it, and on top of that, Chris Paul he's a great mentor for him. So I believe without Chris Paul, they won't be there, but even if they did make the playoffs without him, Devin Booker would just try to put all the weight on his shoulders, and it would struggle tremendously.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that happening. Also, we have to remember that Chris Paul's playoff film is out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know last year with OKC against the Rockets, he played phenomenal. He had a great series. But the year before that, the Rockets versus Warriors, he looked old. Like, we thought he was washed after that series because he looked so bad in that series. So it really depends on which Chris Paul shows up, you know. We have seen this happen in the past where Chris Paul let teams have the highest of expectations, with the Clippers being a top seed year in after year, and then, you know, blowing a 3-1 lead. You know, we have seen that happen to Chris Paul before. We have seen him get injured during playoff series. Like, we have seen a lot. So that's why, back to the question, I would not want to face Utah. I would rather face Phoenix than Utah. Sure. But also, we have to cool down on the Phoenix talk because I know that they're playing well and people are kind of getting hyped about them and praising Chris Paul, deservedly so. But let's not act like we have not seen this before, where Chris Paul has led a great regular season team that has completely crumbled in the playoffs. We have seen this before.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he should be in the MVP conversation at the top of the helm right now. How people are trying to compare him. The Joker has been consistent all year with his performance. I think they were down bad early in the season. He's climbed them back up to one of the top teams in the West. You know, it was like 6, 7 seed. He got them up here to 4 or 5. They beat the Clippers without Jamal Murray and his boys. You know, he's been on a tear without Jamal Murray. So I think the MVP case, aside from like what Seb said, Joel Embiid, who just, you know, he balled out the other day. If it's not Joel Embiid after the Joker, it's the Joker. That's it. It shouldn't be Chris Paul. That conversation should honestly be over. But, you know, people are going to be excited because, yeah, he's doing this, he's doing that. The team is impressive. Yeah, but he shouldn't be in the MVP conversation.
So Russell Westbrook right now has been on the tear. I mean, he's really been having like a triple-double every other day. The Wizards are 13-4 since acquiring Daniel Gafford. And they're also 13-4 in their last 17 games. I mean, they're playing great basketball right now. They still have a pretty bad defense, but their offense is better now. I mean, they're 4th in points per game. They're 1st in pace in the league, but they're last in opponent points per game. Right now, they're the 10 seed at 30-35. I mean, just quick question. Do you guys believe that the Wizards will make the playoffs if they, you know, not only get into the play-in, but they have to face the teams in the play-in? Right now, they would face the Pacers. Then they would have to beat the winner, or no, they would have to beat the loser between the Heat and the Hornets.
Well, I think they'll make the playoffs. It depends. You know, like, I think Indiana being so banged up and so hurt, I think they're going to be in the play-in. I think Charlotte, you know, they're kind of 50-50. You don't know Miami. I don't know if they're going to catch fire. I think they got a 2-game series coming up with Boston. And Boston, you know, you never know with Boston. You know, they can win, they can lose. Like, they're really a you-don't-know story. So it's going to be tough to really assess if I think Washington's going to get in the play-in 100%. And then I don't know if they're going to get in the playoffs depending on who they play. If we're looking at it right now from today's standpoint, I think they'll get in the playoffs. They will play Charlotte, I believe.
They would play the Pacers and then Charlotte.
Yeah, I think with the Pacers being so banged up and Charlotte just, I think.
And their coaching.
Yeah, he's not that good. And Charlotte, you know, they're young, inexperienced. You know, they got a lot of good talent, but they're just too young. I think Westbrook can beat them by themselves. I think him and Bradley Beal could just go on a tear and they can get that win. So I do see them as of today getting into the playoffs and either playing Philly or the Nets.
I believe they make the playoffs, and I believe it because of Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. Another thing is that Indiana, they just, wow. I mean, you can ask Riv. I thought they were a dark horse this year to probably upset somebody. I thought they were, and it wasn't because of Karis LeVert. It was before that trade. It was because
Warren
of Sabonis.
Did get injured, though.
Yeah.
Warren got injured. You have Turner out for the year as well. You have a bunch of players that I thought they were obviously going to be healthy. I thought they would be able to upset maybe a Celtics team or Atlanta Hawks team or something of the sort. I didn't think they were going to go take one of the top 3 out. That being said, Warren's out for the year. You have Miles Turner out for the year. Brogdon, we don't know when he's coming back. It's a hamstring problem. We've seen it sideline KD. We've seen it sideline Harden. I believe Washington will take them out, and I think they'll get the 9th seed. So I believe they'll take them out in that first game. They'll get them out of the way, and we don't know who's going to come out of the Celtics Heat, but either one of them are going to take the Charlotte Hornets out. So I believe the Wizards have a chance to take out the Hornets unless we've seen the Hornets just go off one night and just, you know how they are. So I believe Washington does get in. I don't think it changes the fact that they will lose to Philly, but they can put a series on with Philly as well. I do believe it. I do believe it because of Westbrook.
Yeah, this is a normal Westbrook. He'll get you in the playoffs, but he'll lose in the first round.
Ooh.
At least unless he's teamed up with James Harden, that is. But, you know, so
They lost in the second.
it's still not the
gentleman's
first.
sweep.
It's not the first. So, I mean, Westbrook right now is averaging 22, 11, and 11. He's averaged a triple-double for the last 5 seasons. I 100% believe that they're going to make the playoffs if they do get into the play-in because I don't think the Hornets can beat them.
But let me ask you a question, plot twist. What if Hornets get hot, Heat, Celtics stumble?
The Wizards are out.
You think Wizards get out?
They actually can beat the Celtics.
You think so?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
one game,
Okay,
Westbrook
the
and
Celtics
Beal
do
going
be-
off,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think they can beat
The
the
Celtics have looked so bad this year. So bad.
I agree. But I think if the Heat get in, it's over. Like if they end up in the play-in and they see
Yeah.
Washington, I think it's wraps. I don't think they're beating Jimmy Butler in the play-in.
I just think a backcourt of Beal and Westbrook can win you a game, you know, regardless of who it
Because
is.
Brown,
depending
they don't know when
on
Brown
who it
is coming back.
Who, Brown?
Jaylen Brown.
Oh,
Yeah, he just
yeah,
went down.
that's huge
so.
for them too. I mean, Beal averaging 31, Hachimura 14 points per game, shooting 33% from the three, which is a big improvement from where he was at one point. And Daniel Gafford, you used to be the Chicago Bulls franchise center, but y'all buried him on the bench. Y'all didn't let him play, and now he's looking like the Wizards franchise center. He's averaging 11 and 6 and only 18 minutes and 2 blocks per game. Per tough. 36 minutes, he's averaging 22, 12, and 4.
He's hooping.
I mean, this guy's balling. And Westbrook,
Hey, look at me.
You know that Westbrook has given Daniel Gafford more assists in the 17 games that he's played with the Wizards than any Bulls player has in the 2 years that he was there with you.
We haven't
guys.
had a point guard in like 4 years.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying that's crazy. In 17
sad.
games, he has given him more assists than anybody on the Bulls.
Shout out to Daniel, man.
And their remaining schedule right now is the Raptors. They're facing them today. We'll see who wins that game. The Pacers, they have the Hawks twice, the Cavs, and then the Hornets.
Hawks is big series.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think in this stretch, they beat the Raptors. They beat the Pacers. That's 2-0. I think they split with the Hawks. So 3-1.
They could go like 5-0, 6-0.
Then with the Cavs, I think it's 4-1. Then Hornets, maybe 4-2 or 5-1. I could realistically see them going. But the other question is that do you think Russell Westbrook's greatness is being taken for granted? I know on social media, on Twitter, everybody is, coming out with these posts like, stop disrespecting this man, start appreciating him and all this stuff. I mean, where do you sit with that right now?
I mean, it's one thing to, respect his greatness, and then there's other things when people start calling him like the second best point guard ever, and he's going to go down as better.
They start disrespecting others.
Yeah, it's like, come on. But I think, with Westbrook, his triple doubles and what he's averaged, I think is being diminished, and I think it's going to be diminished in NBA history. I think people are going to look at it and say, well, he was stat padding. We're not going to respect it because we feel like he didn't really earn it. But I think he does deserve to be in history, and he should be respected because he did average a triple double. He does play hard every night, no matter the situation. He's put teams on his back. He's led them to the playoffs. But at the same time, he gets to the playoffs. His field goal percentage has dropped. He's looked like Ben Simmons at points in time. People guard him like Ben Simmons. He's shriveled up in moments. He has the same failures as other superstars. So I think
even more.
Yeah, so I think I don't think he's ever going to win a championship. And I think that's always going to be that thing that, great players, if you don't get it, Charles Barkley doesn't get remembered a lot in NBA history. Why? Because he doesn't have a championship. John Stockton and Karl Malone, they get forgotten a lot in conversations. Why? Because they don't have that championship. Steve Nash, let's be realistic, he's only remembered because he won back-to-back MVPs, and people say he shouldn't have won it. He doesn't have that championship. People who don't win chips, they don't. Dirk, before he won the chip, people were bashing him. He was number one seed, blowing 3-1 leads. People were not, they were coming for his game. He wins the chip. All of a sudden, Dirk's one of the greatest power forwards ever. That chip, it puts you in a different light than everybody else. KG wasn't being respected until he went to Boston and won that chip. So, it's a different feel, and I think that's what's just going to happen with Westbrook. He's going to get lost in history because he didn't win the big one, but he should get respected because he was one of the people that averaged triple-double like Oscar Robertson. So I think, he should get respected for what he did in his time.
I'm just going to go off this. Russell Westbrook is 134 and 45 with his triple-doubles. So a lot of people like to say he's a stat padder. He likes to go out there and just look for the triple-double, whatever it may be. His winning record says otherwise.
Nah, that's crazy.
Now then we go to the playoff record. He's 5-5 when he records the triple-double in the playoffs. His career averages in the playoffs is 24, 7, and 7. He played 106 games. That's not bad. That's not bad for a player. He's averaged a triple-double for 4 years. We all know that. He's averaged years where he had 28 points. He's had 31 points and 27 points per game for a season. So it's not like he can't shoot. Everyone calls him Westbrook and all these other names that they put out there. He can shoot the ball. It's just not an efficient clip that we like to see the high-end point guards of the league do it, as Damian Lillard does, and so is Steph Curry. He shoots 44% for his career on 19 attempts. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. He's a 9-time All-Star. He's an MVP. He's only 32 years old. That, for me, right, if you're looking at the way they age, I'll give him about another 3 more years where he could probably produce at this rate. Not at a triple-double rate, but he's going to produce for another 3 years, I would say. I would say 35, 36 is where most prime players decline, unless you're LeBron James, where we've seen him continue to excel. But he's a player that, at the end of the day, he's going to be great in terms of all time. Well, people are telling me and telling Riv on Twitter that he's above Stephen Curry, a multiple-time champion, MVP, the other store, the best shooter ever. It's ridiculous at this point. But at the end of the day, you have to give the flowers while they're here, and I believe Russell Westbrook is one of the best point guards to ever play the game.
And I mean, just to piggyback off what you said, I mean, Charles Barkley led a team to the finals, though.
People forget that, though.
Westbrook never did it. Like, Westbrook has been out of the first round, and listen, I'll say that, yeah, what Westbrook is doing is phenomenal. Now, I definitely do appreciate what he's doing and, how he's doing it. But we got to be real. I mean, when he stacks up against other great players or even playoff series where he's been favored, he has not come out on top on those playoff series. I don't think it's, out of the realm that we criticize this dude because we expect more of him. Like, I expected you to get out of the first round against Utah when you had Paul George and Carmelo. I expected you to win against Portland when you faced them because you guys were one of the best teams. That year, they were being talked about as a dark horse to go to the finals. Yep. So I expect you to win those series. So I don't think this is where it gets tricky because people think that because you criticize a player, all of a sudden you hate him. That's not the case. The case is that when we're talking about legacies, when we're comparing players, Westbrook just doesn't stack up with other players because they have done more.
Well, let me ask you a question then. We praise Chris Paul. How much more has he done than Westbrook?
That's a really good question.
That's a good question.
We know because we put Chris Paul in the stratosphere. I think you once told me he was the top 3-point guard.
I'll say this.
So what has he done more? Legacy-wise, just legacy-wise.
Chris Paul, you put him on a team, and he raises the ceiling of that team.
Okay.
Prime example, the Rockets. Almost beating one of the greatest teams to ever be assembled in the Warriors with James Harden.
Okay.
Westbrook on that same team is not doing that.
But Westbrook has been to a finals as the number 2. Chris Paul has not been to a finals as the number 2 or the number 1.
I mean, KD was just so damn dominant.
Come on.
I know Westbrook was amazing, but Harden was amazing in that run as well.
Westbrook had a 40-point game in the finals.
Westbrook performed.
They lost 4-1 now.
Westbrook is an MVP. I'm just actually. I'm not saying Russell. I think Chris Paul is better than Russell Westbrook.
No, I said this though. I said this to your point. I've said this before. I've said that Westbrook right now has an opportunity because I mean, I did criticize him when he wanted to go to Washington because bro, like trying to go win. Why do you want to go to Washington? But I said this on a podcast when you were here and Jack was here as well. I said that Russell Westbrook has a chance to kind of change the narrative around his legacy the same way Chris Paul did. Mm-hmm. Chris Paul was known as a playoff choker and an underachiever until he got to Houston and got them to the WCF along with James Harden and played well in the playoffs. But I think where the narrative really started to change around Chris Paul was when he went to OKC and they made the playoffs. And a lot of those younger dudes developed really nicely. And now he's doing the same thing in Phoenix. So I said if Westbrook right now can, go on a stretch where the Wizards go to the playoffs, he takes them to the playoffs, those young players do develop, then this is the chance for the narrative to be rewritten about him. But he's not at that stage yet because the Wizards have not made the playoffs yet. We still have to see if they do that. And we still have to see what happens next year if he can take them to the playoffs again. Like Chris Paul, everywhere he's been, you can see a common denominator. They have won. Maybe they have not won the championship, but they have not underachieved to the level that Westbrook has underachieved in the playoffs. And I think that is the most important thing that we're talking about here.
No, I agree. And another thing is that a lot of people like to bring accolades into it, championships. That's probably the main argument that you could make for Westbrook with Chris Paul. But I don't see how, if you really watch basketball, you could put Westbrook in front of Chris Paul in terms of legacy.
I think we just forget that they played each other. And I remember that series very vividly when Chris Paul choked and they were up 2-1 and they blew it to Kevin Durant and Westbrook. I think people vividly just put Chris Paul in front of Westbrook as if he done so much more.
Yeah.
And we're just talking legacy. And I'll be looking at Westbrook's career like, I don't know. Westbrook looks like he's, they're all kind of on the same level. But I agree with you in terms of like being a floor raiser and that just looking at it from a player aspect. I agree. Chris Paul is
that's why
a little a level above Russell Westbrook in that aspect.
And I also think that players they get to a certain point where fans do start to appreciate them because they know that their time is almost up in the league. The perfect example is Carmelo. I mean, 3 years ago, Carmelo was being called the washed and he couldn't play in a ball hog and all this stuff. And there are still some people that say the same things, but now we see everybody's praising Carmelo's career like dudes weren't just bashing him 5 years ago, especially Knicks fans. Knicks fans were bashing him to death when in his time in New York before that ended. So, and now every Knicks fan appreciates that time, that one great year with Melo. But, the same things happens. Chris Paul getting older. Now we're appreciating him more. So the only guy who didn't get that was like Paul Pierce, but we'll see if Westbrook, I think Westbrook has been great enough to this point to get that type of recognition and to get like a sort of like a farewell tour, once he decides to ultimately hang it up.
I don't think people who don't win get farewell tours.
I don't know.
I think we're in such a great era though that are we going to really give?
You look at the guys who got a farewell tour. Kobe got one. D-Wade barely got one.
You think Carmelo will? I think he will.
D-Wade got one.
I don't think he got one. I think he got one every
Vince
home
Carter
game.
even got one. It was just not as. It was
That's
not
what I'm saying.
celebrated.
It wasn't like.
Plus, you gotta also take into account that some players do not announce that they're retaring.
That is true.
At the beginning of the season, Kobe did. So like Tim Duncan didn't announce he was retiring. He just played and then said, "I'm out." So nobody knew.
No one expected different from Tim Duncan.
Yeah, so nobody knew. But like, if Carmelo says, "I'm retiring this year," he will definitely get a farewell tour.
Well, I hope you enjoy that farewell tour.
I will. I'll go. I was there for Vince Carter's farewell to the Knicks.
For real?
At MSG. Yeah, it was loud. They was appreciating him. I'll tell you that for sure.
Yeah, of course, Vince Carter's loved.
And Carmelo Anthony has had a better career than him. He has.
I didn't say anything.
The face you made it seem like
I'm biased.
He was gonna say something.
No,
that's why I was like,
no, I'm biased.
Yeah, well, both of them are not winners. So I don't care.
There are 5 NBA coaches on the hot seat right now. A report on The Athletic came out, and they talked about this. Shams talked about this. Terry Stotts with the Blazers. Nate Bjorkgren with the Pacers. Mike Budenholzer is also on the hot seat with the Bucks. Scott Brooks is on the hot seat with the Wizards. And Luke Walton with the Kings. So honestly, looking at this list, I think most of these guys are going to be fired. I think Terry Stotts is gone. I think Scott Brooks is gone. It really depends. I think it would be.
If they get in, he won't be gone.
It would be a shame if he's not gone though, because I think he should go. But Luke Walton, he's gone. Nate Bjorkgren, I mean, this guy Nate Bjorkgren, his assistant fought Goga Bitadze. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Yeah. They're about to miss the playoffs after making it last year. T.J. Warren actually requested a trade before the start of this past season when they did not hire Nate McMillan back. And the players have said they don't like this guy because he's analytics-based and he's a hard-nosed style coach. So he's like a Nick Nurse, but that's full-on analytics, which is a weird combination because usually analytics are kind of, they have like a Brad Stevens, like a soft spot in their hearts, and they can connect with people well. But this guy's just like a hard ass, and he's analytics based, and he's trying to be this enforcer when he's like, sounds like a geek. So obviously, I think that this guy's probably going to be gone. And Terry Stotts, I mean, it's about time, right? I mean, they have made the playoffs every year. I know that nobody's ever expected them to do more than what they've done, but I think it's about time to have a coaching change because at some point, your defense has to be better. I don't think it's all about your players. I think it's about schemes sometimes.
I agree to an extent. I think I think some coaches can make players look better than what they look like with the proper schemes. But I also think it's about effort. Defensively, you got to put in the effort for even be. I don't think Portland has the personnel on defense to even be good. Granted, their best defender, Robert Covington, isn't even playing that great he isn't playing that great defense this year.
I mean, he's always been an overrated defender.
Yeah, so it's like, your best defender is overrated anyways. Your backcourt doesn't play D. It's it's weird. I think Stotts reached his peak last year. No, 2 years ago. Pardon me. When they made the WCF, I think that was they had a great run. They hit the big shot. Denver, they upset Denver. They won in 7 in Denver. That was a great series. CJ went crazy, and then they got smoked out by Golden State. I think they reached the end of the run for them. I think the bubble you saw last year, Dame had to carry them to get even in. They won the little game one. Dame went crazy, and then they lost 4 straight. And I think this year, I was high on them because they got, depth, and they had a deep roster. But they don't play defense. They rely on scoring, and they rely on that backcourt heavily, and that team gets hurt a lot. Mm-hmm. So, this year, whatever happens this year, whether they can make, they still one of those teams that can get hot and make a run. But whatever happens this year, they definitely need to look into a coach who's more defensive oriented. I feel like this team doesn't need an offensive coach because they have enough offense where they don't need a scheme on offense. They have Dame, they have CJ. If Melo come back, they have Melo. I think they just traded Gary Trent. Norman Powell's still good. I think Anthony Simmons is getting his game under his belt. He's starting to become good. You still got Nurkic. So they have offense. I think they need to get a defensive minded coach that will really get them into buy in and have a hard-nosed approach on defense. But I think this year it's probably wraps for Terry, regardless of where they go.
I think it's unfair. Well, I do think he should go, but I think it's unfair considering the year that they had this year. It was a roller coaster in a sense, but one thing about Portland that I actually was surprised about, they have the least amount of turnovers in the NBA. They don't turn the ball over. And that comes a lot with coaching, committing plays that are least more efficient to where you are less prone to do a turnover, especially with the ball handlers that you do have that are so high. Their offense is more high octane than others in a sense. But I don't think it has more with the coach. I think it's just the roster itself. I don't think it's built to win a chip. And a lot has to do with the fact that they haven't had enough time to mesh together. I mean, Zach Collins, we haven't really seen him play with Nurkic a lot. And even when we did, do we really think that that's a front court that could be reckoned with in the Western Conference? I don't think so, personally. So I believe that they're gonna end up getting rid of him, whether it's warranted or not. I believe he'll get a job somewhere else. But that team didn't really get the chance to really show their full potential in the last couple of years, and that just comes with the NBA, injuries in all parts.
I mean, I think the Blazers have a good roster. I don't know if it's coaching or what it is, but their defense is horrible. I don't know if it's scheme, if it's coaching. I know most of it has to do with Dame and CJ just don't play defense. And Melo, we know, doesn't play defense. And Canner, we know, doesn't play defense.
Never will. Yeah.
So that's what I think most of it is. But, I think Terry Stotts has reached his time with the Blazers. I think it's time for them to part ways. He's been with this organization long enough to where he hasn't really succeeded. And that's why. But I'm afraid that this might have a ripple effect. This might have an effect to where Terry Stotts goes, and it's kind of like the Pacers with Nate McMillan. Now they're not a team even in the playoffs because their new coach comes in and nobody's vibing with him. So it could go that way, or the Blazers front office decides to just completely tear it all apart and start trading CJ and these guys. So we don't know what direction they're going to head in.
I think it's time. Yeah, I think I've been on the record saying I don't think Dame can be the best player on your team to win a chip. I don't think he's that guy. I think he can be your number 2. I think in a league that we're in right now, looking back at the last 10 years, there's only been one point guard that's been the best player in the championship team. I think this is a wing-dominant league. It used to be a big dom, but I think they need a dominant wing that can take some of the pressure off Dame on offense. Maybe like a Kawhi type guy, something like that. But I think, that backcourt, I think they've reached their run. It's been a great run. They've gave us some great moments, but I think that team, Portland's front office should definitely think about breaking it up. And I know Dame wants to stay there for his whole life. Yeah, cool, whatever. But, I think in this situation, Portland has to look at it like we're not going to win a chip this way. We're not going to get far. This is what we reached. The West is getting better. Teams are getting better. Luka is here. The Lakers are going to be here. The Clippers are here. Phoenix just got here. They're arriving. Utah's going to be here. Donovan's young. So it's Warriors. We don't know what they're going to do next year. They could be a top team next year, So it's like the Grizzlies, they're on their way up. So the Pelicans are on their way up. So it's like you got to make a decision with the drafts coming up. Do you want to tank now, get some picks, or do you want to just keep riding this team that's already reached their peak?
Yeah, I agree. And another coach that's on the hot seat, Nate Bjorkgren with the Pacers, I think he's a one and done. He should be fired. So I think he should go. But a surprising one, Mike Budenholzer and the Bucks. They have said that if they don't make a deep playoff run, he will be fired.
I agree.
And at this point, right now, it looks like they're probably going to face the Nets in the second round. Is that a deep playoff run? I don't think that's what they're expecting. I think they're thinking ECF or done.
I think they should make that based off matchup, because if you play the best team in the second round,
it's not his fault.
Yeah, and granted, I know why they're saying it. You know, they walked in as heavy favorites against Miami. They lost 4-1. It was pretty much an embarrassment. They blew it to Toronto and Kawhi. They was up 2-0, lost 4 straight.
That was horrible.
Yeah, so it's like I understand. You know, they're tired of this. They feel like they have the team necessary to win. But I feel like, you know, playing the Nets in the second round is what we're going to see. I think it's hard to really put that on Mike Budenholzer. They're a freaking super team. They have the best shooting guard in the league, the best small forward in the league, top 3-4 point guard in the NBA. It's not much you just pray and hope for the best. So I don't think he should get fired based off that judgment alone. I think it depends on how they lose, though. If they lose in like a 4 or 5 game series, then you're looking like, all right, come on, bro. Like, we have the team to make it at least 6, you know? So it really just depends on how they go this year, in my opinion.
I think I don't think it's his fault. I don't think it will be his fault. But at the end of the day, we've seen coaches just get fired because they feel like they need to change, when realistically it's just sometimes in the playoffs you run into a team that's just that dominant, regardless of what your aspirations are. I've seen it personally with Tom Coughlin. He was a great coach for the Giants for a while, and at one point it would just we have to get rid of him. We have to set a new culture for the team, and sure enough, we did, and we got. I don't even remember his name. He was just so bad for us. But yeah, we went out and we splurged and we went to the playoffs and we got destroyed by the Packers. And it was not because the team was bad. It was just the head coach was just that bad. And I don't think cultural resets are appropriate when you're having so many players in their primes already comfortable where they're at. That's another thing with the Pacers. They're not getting any younger. A lot of their players are getting up there in age, where they're reaching their prime or they're about to get past it. I mean, Carmelo's obviously already past it, but that like every other team in the West, like you said, they're young. They're young and they're gonna get better. They're not gonna get worse. The Pacers, the Portland Trailblazers are going to get worse. So they're more in line to have a head coaching change than I believe in the Bucks.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, if they do get embarrassed again in the playoffs, Budenholzer should go. I think he is a great coach. He has shown that he can achieve a lot with talent that doesn't seem to be the best, right? I mean, with the Hawks winning 60 games with that team is crazy. But, you know, Budenholzer, I think, is the only guy out of these 5 coaches that probably will be the coach next year. But Scott Brooks, like, I think it's his time to go. Like, I never thought he was a good coach back in his OKC days. You know, so I think the Wizards need to change the scenery. Scott Brooks has always been a guy who's just going to give the ball to his best player and, you know, have them create offense. He's not an X's and O's guy. And then Luke Walton with the Kings, I mean, he probably should have never been hired in the first place, right?
Oh, no, he flopped in L.A. I think the Kings just thought because he was young, they were young, thought it would mesh, but it's not working. Luke Walton he's just a horrible coach.
I think Sacramento needs a new owner. I think that's what it is.
Bro, I think that was the owner that said Buddy Hield is what? Okay. That was that guy, right?
Whatever
it was that guy. Okay, yeah. Nah, Luke Walton is terrible. You know, he doesn't know what he's doing in the X's and O's. He doesn't know how to scheme. He doesn't know how to game plan. He doesn't know how to substitute. He's just really bad in all categories of coaching. It's really embarrassing. The only thing that's good for him, he's young. He's a really young coach. I mean, he coached for the Warriors, but it wasn't hard. You know, you had Steph, Katie in them. It's not hard. So
Sacramento's it's just one of those things. Like, remember, Boogie Cousin went at it with the owner at one point too. Like, it's just that organization until they have a change.
Very toxic.
It's such a bad environment, and you haven't seen a free agent say, I want to go there.
And that team, you know, the last 5-6 drafts, the most they've got out of it is De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah,
and Tyrese Halliburton is this year.
This year,
Marvin Bagley's no good. Buddy Hield, we know what he is. He's whatever. You know, good shooter, good player.
We knew what he was going to be.
Yeah, so it's like they need a whole everything, not just the coach. I think Divock is their GM, right?
Yeah.
He has to go.
Our president of basketball operations, one of those.
Yeah, everybody has to go for them, honestly.
Yeah, so we'll see which one of those coaches gets fired. And now we're going to talk about a young up-and-coming player in the NBA. This is MPJ, Michael Porter Jr.
I thought Ja Morant was coming up. That's all.
You know, we'll talk about him next.
Ja Morant's name is Demetrius. I'm on him.
Michael Porter
That's
Jr.
bad
to
name.
me has been balling. I mean, since Jamal Murray has been sidelined with his injury, MPJ has stepped up. I mean, right now he's averaging 23 points per game and 7 rebounds per game in Jamal Murray's absence. This season, he's averaging 19 points per game, 7 rebounds, shooting 54% from the field and 44% from three. And that's a massive jump from last year where he averaged 9 points and he shot 51% from the field and 42% from the three. So the points have jumped, but his efficiency has pretty much stayed the same. Number 1 ranked recruit out of high school. He dropped in the draft because of his back injury, even though Tracy McGrady said that he played with the same injury and it did not bother him whatsoever, and he was fine. I think he's a superstar. Not right now, but I think he's a future superstar. I'll say this. His floor is Memphis Grizzlies Rudy Gay.
No, better.
That's his floor.
No.
So
definitely better.
You don't think his floor is 20 points per game? That means the worst he's going to be is 20 points per game.
I think Rudy Gay was a 20 points per game inefficient guy, though. I think
he just went out there and shot.
Not inefficient, but I think he was just going out there. He wasn't really going out there to win. He was just going.
So you're telling me if MPJ was placed in those situations with Toronto and with Sacramento, it wouldn't be the same result?
No.
Gives me Joe Johnson vibes.
Yeah, He
gives me Joe.
I think his floor is better than Rudy Gay.
Having a floor where you're averaging 20 points per game.
No, his floor for Rudy Gay is pretty good.
Yeah,
in NBA standards. Floor. Yeah, that's a floor, bro.
I wasn't high on. I think Michael Porter Jr.'s floor is like an all-star, like a consistent all-star.
Joe Johnson. I'm gonna put
that in that type of form. Like I think Denver has an opportunity here, and I hope they don't mess up like OKC messed up. I think they have kind of like a Golden State opportunity. They drafted all 3 of their guys. Yeah. So Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Nikola. I think it was like a trade on draft day, but whatever. Same thing.
Round pick.
Yeah, same thing. I think they have a very important. They have a Golden State way of where they can move this. Nikola, he's arrived. He's here. He's gonna be here. Jamal Murray, he was arriving. He's still. I think the way he plays, he'll be fine from the injury. I think Michael Porter Jr. making that next leap up. I think that's what they need to really be a championship team because. In a league with Kawhi, LeBron, Kevin Durant, Paul George, Giannis, you need a wing that's going to give them buckets on that. And I think Michael Porter Jr. is that guy. And I think he can be a superstar. I think in about 2 years he'll be it. I said this on draft day when he got drafted. He'll be better than Ben Simmons. I said that mad early. People jumped on me for that. Now we're here. I think he can definitely be a superstar in the next 2 years. And I think that's what Denver needs to really be a championship. I know you're high in Jamal Murray. I don't think those two are enough. I think Michael Porter Jr. ascending to that second guy is really going to put them in the championship window, in my opinion.
If I'm not mistaken, you said that Porter Jr. was Wesley Johnson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm not even acknowledging
that.
That's
I'm playing, but
no good.
I didn't even finish what I was going to say.
I'm sorry.
His floor was Rudy Gay, but his ceiling is like a KD type of superstar. Yet I think it is. His ceiling, his ultimate ceiling, when you look at their play styles, a 6'10 forward who can shoot, who can handle the ball, who can get to his spot on the floor. I mean, this guy's 21 years old.
You do know KD walked in at 19, like just dominating the league, right?
Yeah. He's 22.
KD walked in averaging 20. But I think his ceiling, it's not crazy to say MPJ can be a top 10 player.
Okay.
That's respectable.
Yeah, I don't think his ceiling could be that.
3, though.
Yeah, like KD's that ceiling's a really tall ceiling. That's
tough one to achieve.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he.
I would have gave him Melo.
I think that's his. No, I don't think so. I think his.
Top 10 player, what do you Melo?
I think his maximum ceiling can be like KD type.
He could be better than Melo.
100%. We talking about KD here.
No, but I don't think he's getting. I don't know where he got that from. I don't think he's gonna get to KD's level.
I mean, I think just MPJ's play style also is very reminiscent more of KD than of Melo.
He's streaky though. I mean, KD will at the times he'll just go to the basket. Michael Porter Jr. is going to continue to shoot that 3 until it falls.
Yeah, he's shooting 44% right now.
I think that's more coaching than anything, though. I think that's the coach's scheme and game plan. I don't think he's at that level yet to attack the basket and be that guy. I think that's going to come more with confidence and experience in the league. I see what you're saying though. I could rock with you on that.
So
that
without Murray, they're 13-5 right now. They're 8-2 in their last 10.
Yeah.
But they still have a good team. I mean, Monte Morris is good, even though he's been out of the lineup as well. Will Barton is good. P.J. Dozier. I mean, Aaron Gordon. That was a huge pickup. I know you guys. I know you guys are waiting for me to say Facundo Campazzo.
He's waiting.
I mean, Campazzo has been good as well for them. You know, Jermichael Green. Millsap is finally showing his age. He doesn't look.
I was just about to say that. He has to go.
You know, he looks like a completely different player. But I think the acquisition of Austin Rivers was huge. I mean, he was a Knicks legend. He did a lot for the city. He dominated Utah.
100%.
So I think, you know, him going to Denver, I think that was a huge acquisition. This guy who could play defense and hit some open shots and create something sometimes.
So how far do you have them going? If you're doing all this talking,
without
it's
Jamal?
tough. I mean, look, I definitely
let's say
have
season
them.
ends today.
I definitely have them going out of the first round. I definitely have them making the second round, and it really is all on MPJ and the leap he's going to take in the playoffs, because I know Jokic is going to do his thing. But if the Nuggets, let's say, face Phoenix and Phoenix is in the second round, I think Denver can beat Phoenix, because I believe that MPJ can have just as good of a series as Devin Booker. I mean, MPJ, I think, can really ascend. I mean, I think this playoffs right here is really might be the beginning of MPJ and how we view him. I mean, he can have a playoffs where he's averaging 28, looks like a star, and we're like, wow. Yeah. Like, I think this can be that for him, this playoff run right here. I'm not saying their ceiling is going to the championship, because I think their title hopes left when Jamal Murray got injured. You know, when Jamal Murray was healthy, I said it on the podcast. I said they're my dark horse to make the finals if the Lakers are not fully healthy.
I said the same.
They're my dark horse. But because of Jamal Murray's injury, you know, I know you're not that high on Jamal Murray, but I'm really high on him, and I thought that was such a major loss. So I think their ceiling now is WCF, really, but it depends on matchups a lot. But realistically, I just see them going to the second round and then being out the playoffs.
I'll tell you right now, if the season ended today, the Nuggets will play the Lakers in the first round.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
that changes everything.
Well, if LeBron
isn't what he is, then I can.
LeBron's supposed to be back next week. According to the reports.
There goes that.
But they have been looking bad though.
Yeah. Well, honestly,
I mean, they just played.
Yeah.
The Lakers in Denver, they just played. That game was horrible, but it was fun.
I can't believe I watched that.
It was horrible. Yeah. So you said WCF ceiling. I agree.
With this group, yes. Depending on matchups,
yeah,
yes.
I go off matchups.
But if they face the Lakers, that'll be tough though.
Playoff LeBron.
I think anybody plays the Lakers, it'd be tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if the Clippers face them in the first round, the Clippers will win.
Right now?
In the first round, yeah.
Oh, the Clippers will beat the Lakers regardless of when they play them. That's just my view on the Clippers.
Oh, that's crazy.
I don't think that's crazy. I wouldn't put my money against LeBron, but if the Clippers win, it's lit.
Huh?
It's lit. But I think Denver right now is in a tricky situation. I would want to take the Phoenix route. I don't think they want to see Utah right now without Jamal Murray. Like, I think that was one of the reasons they came back 3-1. Jamal Murray was butting heads with Donovan Mitchell. I don't think they have. I wouldn't want to see Utah right now. I'm not sold on Dallas right now. I think Denver could beat Dallas. I think Denver could beat Portland right now easily.
And Memphis,
yeah, pretty easily.
Golden State.
Woo! Yeah, they'll probably beat Golden State. It'll be probably like 6 games. Don't be surprised though. That could be an upset. Don't be surprised. Draymond lock up. Then we got Steph.
Who's Draymond gonna lock up?
The Joker.
There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no chance that happens.
It's okay. Who's gonna lock up Steph? Facundo? You're not worried about that guy.
He had 3 steals on Steph.
Yeah,
P.J. Dozier.
Who? He kills him. He kills him.
Nah, but I think Michael Porter Jr. has a chance to be a star player. We'll see what he ends up being, though. But I think, like you said, Denver has a great opportunity to really build something. I mean, they're excellent at drafting. They really are.
And you were on the ship about firing Mike Malone. Look at that.
I mean, yes. I mean, I had good reasoning for it, though.
Yeah.
Look
how
down,
that just flipped, huh?
Yeah. Last year, I said they should fire Mike Malone because they were down 3-1 against the Utah Jazz without Bogdanovich, and I thought they should have never been down 3-1 in the first place.
Yeah, look how that just flipped around.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, now he deserves a job because they came back
twice
2-3 for 2-3-1s, against the Clippers and the Jazz. So obviously it's different now. But if they would have lost 4-1 to the Jazz in the first round without Bogdanovich, yeah, I would have fired him. So now we're gonna talk about your guy, Riv.
My boy,
I can't wait for
Ja Morant.
big job. Demetrius.
So
delusional.
Demetrius, that's his name. Demetrius.
His name is actually Demetrius.
Demetrius with
I'm
the
tell you
T.
right now.
Yeah.
Demetrius Jamel Morant.
Okay, so Demetrius.
Don't do that. Call him Jamal on here. I'm just telling you that's what his name is.
Okay, Demetrius recently went on Inside the NBA on TNT, and I don't know who asked him the question. It could have been Shaq or D Wade. It was one of those guys, or Adam Lefko, and they asked him, does he believe he's a top 5 point guard, or where he thinks he ranks amongst the point guards? And Ja Morant said, "I'm a top 5 point guard," and Dwayne Wade quickly said, "Oh, I love that." I like that.
He says that for everything.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, man. So Ja Morant thinks he's a top 5 point guard. He called himself a top 5 point guard. He's averaging 19, 4, and 7 this season, shooting 45% from the field and 30% from 3, so not so great from the 3. He's only 21 years old, though. I mean, is he a top 5 point guard? Does he warrant that status of calling himself a top 5 point guard?
Nah, he's not. He's he's not a top 5 point guard. But I do love the confidence. The fact that he said that on I watched it. He said it actually pretty quick, like with the swiftness. Like he said, "Yeah, I'm top 5." We've watched Ja Morant since Murray State. We know his confidence. He doesn't care. He believes he's one of the best. He believed he was one of the best walking in. I love the confidence. It's good for that organization. It's good that he feels like he has that chip on his shoulder, and it's good because he's the leader of that team. But no, he's not top 5. You can even argue him out the top 10 right now. Ja Morant hasn't made a big improvement this year, the improvement I thought he was going to make. Granted, the team is pretty deep. It has a lot of good players in that team, but Ja Morant hasn't made the proper improvement. He's still that guy that's going to attack you at the rim. He's improved a little bit on his playmaking. He's actually put in effort on defense this year, but he's not made that jump improvement that I thought he was going to make. Still 19-7-4 is still good, but it's not top 5. It's barely top 10. There's a lot of point guards you can name better than him, but I do love the confidence.
I'm just going to honestly attack Ja Morant right now.
Don't say nothing dumb.
He is 9th in defensive rating this year. He's 14th minutes per game. He's 12th in points per game. Oh, all this is by point guards.
Oh, okay.
This is just point guards alone. 12th in points per game. 14th in rebounds. 6th in assists. That's his highest accolade right there.
9th in defensive rating? That's tough.
Huh? That's not bad. Yeah, not bad, but not top 5 worthy.
All right.
He's 17th in steals.
All right.
He's 15th in blocks. He's 5th in turnovers, which is the only top 5 thing that he has going for. He's 11th in field goal percentage. He's 21st in 3-point percentage, and he's tied with Ben Simmons for 30% on the year. Whatever you want to do with that. And he's 11th in plus minus.
Ben Simmons took 10 threes. So
yeah,
don't even do that.
Nah, it was just more of a jab than anything else. But that being said, I just don't, anybody who even mentions that it's possible, it's not possible. I don't think he's close. I don't think he's top 7, 8. He's borderline top 10,
Can
maybe.
you name me 10 certified point guards better?
I say he's top 9, top 10.
Oh, okay.
I say he's not 7 or 8. But just going off those numbers alone and the season that he's had, he also had that ankle injury against Brooklyn that kind of sidelined him for a little bit. But he's come. He's gonna be there soon. He's gonna be a top 5 point guard soon for sure. But as of right now, there's no way.
Some things are left better unsaid. This is one of those things.
Some things are better left unsaid.
Yes. Because he said he was a top 5 point guard. He's not a top 5 point guard. Probably should have never said it because although, people were going to say you love the confidence, of course everybody should think that way. But not everybody should say it. And this is one of those situations that he probably should have never said it because then people like us are going to come on a podcast and talk about why he's not a top 5 point guard because he's definitely not a top 5 point guard. I mean, Steph, Dame, Kyrie, Trey, Westbrook, Chris Paul. That's 6 right there. I could have just stopped at 5, but I named 6. Are we classifying Luka as a point guard?
don't even know.
Yeah,
Are we like?
I would.
Most people do.
All right,
if
so
we
yeah,
class,
class
he's 7, right? That's 7 right there. And then is De'Aaron Fox better than Ja Morant?
No.
If you're saying no, that's really biased.
I don't know.
He's
I
not.
like
De'Aaron Fox
Fox's
is
game.
averaging 25 points
On
per
a
game.
bad day, he sucks.
So you're saying if you swap De'Aaron Fox on the Grizzlies right now,
they'd be winning as much as Ja
yes,
Morant?
what
Come
do you mean
on.
as much as Memphis?
Come on, bro.
Ja Morant on the Kings, nobody would know about him.
He would put up 25. He would do the
No, he
same thing
would
De'Aaron
not.
Fox
He would do
doing.
the same thing Fox does.
Maybe 23, not 25.
Oh, this is ridiculous.
Now, look, this is the thing. De'Aaron Fox on the Grizzlies, I think
Wait, Ben Simmons?
they become just as good. I don't think Ben Simmons is better.
Okay.
That's me personally.
Oh, I love that.
Okay, but look, De'Aaron Fox on the Grizzlies, if we put De'Aaron Fox on the Grizzlies and replace Ja Morant, De'Aaron Fox, for one, can shoot better than Ja Morant, which is something that to this point has plagued him and might plague him for his career. I think De'Aaron Fox drives to the basket better. He's faster, and he doesn't play out of control like Ja Morant. Ja Morant plays out of control. Look, I know that he gets some great numbers sometimes, most of the time for that fact, but I don't like the way he does it. I just don't. It looks sloppy. It looks like a knockoff of Derrick Rose. It just doesn't look. It just doesn't look fluid. De'Aaron Fox to me is fluid. And then, okay, right now there are a lot of great older point guards. Steph, Dame, Westbrook, Chris Paul.
He up next.
Let's just talk about the younger point guards. Is he even top 5 within the younger point guards?
Who we consider?
Trae Young,
Trae Young's better.
Luka,
Better.
De'Aaron Fox,
Debatable.
Kyrie.
Kyrie's not
He's
young,
not young.
but
Kyrie is really entering his prime right now, though.
okay,
like
fine.
Kyrie
I thought we were
I thought
talking about
about
the
coming.
ascending guys, the young guys.
No,
You said
Kyrie's
Trae
like in
Young.
the middle for me. He's in the middle. He's on the older side, but also couldn't be classified
All
as
right,
young.
but
I'll put the young ones last
he's
7
like
drafts. in a row.
5-6 years older
Okay,
than guys were named.
Jamal Murray.
Jamal's better than him right now.
Okay, that's 4 right there with Trae, Luka, Fox, and Murray.
I said Fox was debatable. Take him out.
Okay, that's
I need 5 confirmed. I need 5.
Colin
confirmed.
Sexton.
He's not a point guard. And hell no.
You think he's more of a 2?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's a shooter.
Garland's
No,
the one.
I understand that. I understand
Yeah.
that. Is it crazy to say Darius Garland can be better?
It's not.
He's been balling.
It's not crazy.
He's
to
been
say.
balling. What about Kate Cunningham when he comes into the league? I know
Yo,
he
I
hasn't
knew
touched
He's
the
not
league
here.
yet.
He's not here yet. He's not here yet.
He hasn't touched the league yet, but when he comes into the league, Ja Morant might not even be top 5 between the young point guards.
He's top 5.
If we talking about Trae, Luka, Fox, Murray, Garland, Sexton, and
Sexton,
Cade.
You're not giving me Garland. I'm not giving you Garland.
No, not right now. I understand, but like these are all guys that can be better than Ja, or it will be debatable at least.
You know, Ja can also be better than everybody you just named.
Outside of Luka
Not
and
Luka.
Trey, I
Oh,
agree.
I forgot
Yeah,
about
not
Luka.
Luka.
Trey, he can be better than Trey.
He will not be better than
He
Trey.
can be better than Trey.
He's ice Trey, man.
Trey's just a knockoff Steph Curry.
Yeah, that's a pretty good knockoff. I'd love to be
You
a
telling me
knockoff
Ja
Steph
Morant
Curry.
can't put up 25 and 10?
Ja could definitely do that.
Yeah,
Not
that's what
saying
I'm
he can't, but
And
also
I don't think he could do it as efficient as Trey.
Trey ain't efficient.
Huh?
Trey
Because he does. He shoots from half court.
Whose fault is that?
Huh? I don't know, bro. I don't know what he thinks he is.
but Trey also is putting up these numbers on a winning team now.
What's his record? Because the Grizzlies have 33 wins. I swear to God, you say they have, what, like 2 or 3 more wins?
I could search with the record right now.
Search up the record right now, man. You just got me mad.
You said Grizzlies have 33 wins.
Hawks have 37.
Yeah, they have
They got
37.
4 more
Okay.
wins.
I mean, the Hawks in the West would be the 6th seed.
You can't flip that because they would have to play more West teams than East. Can't do it like that.
Still, they would still be, and I think the Grizzlies probably have more depth than the Hawks, especially with the Hawks injuries.
Yeah.
Grizzlies have a better roster.
Debatable.
Trae Young is better than Ja.
I said he was.
Yeah, he is.
I said he was. I'm saying Ja could be better than Trey, bro.
I mean, they're the same age. I mean, if we're going by trajectory, it's still going to be Trae.
We'll see.
But I'm just saying, even amongst young point guards, Ja is like he's there, but he could easily not be there either. So look, like I said, I love the confidence, but he's just not a top 5 point guard right now. He is the future of the Memphis Grizzlies, but I think the Grizzlies ultimately will go as far as Jaren Jackson Jr. takes them, quite honestly. And I think the only way the Grizzlies can be a viable threat in the West
I've never heard somebody
is
That
if
was crazy.
is if Jaren Jackson takes that humongous leap and is an all-star like player.
But if he does and Ja Morant doesn't take the superstar leap, it's over.
But I think, what did you say earlier? It's a wing-dominated league.
Jackson isn't a wing.
He's a forward, though, and I think forwards dominate the league more than guards.
Yeah, but the way he plays, he's like kind of like a
He's like a power forward, like a traditional one.
He kind
I
of.
mean, I think he can stretch the floor. He's an elite
100%.
defender.
But he's more of a 4-5 than a 4-3. You know what I'm saying?
He's an elite
he's going
defender. I just think that, of course,
You're ridiculous.
I think we know what Ja's going to be. He's going to be an all-star point guard, every other year, maybe year in and year out. He's going to be a phenomenal player. But I think in order for Memphis to be taken seriously as like, oh, they're like Denver now, or they're like a top team in the West, Jaren Jackson Jr. has to take that leap. Like, he has to be that guy. That's just me. That's just what I feel personally. Like, Ja has to average like 22 and 9, and Jaren Jackson has to average like 25 and 10. That's what I think it has to be. That's what I think the dynamic has to be.
No, you're ridiculous.
Quite frankly, that's what I think it has to be. If he does not develop into that, then the Memphis Grizzlies will always just be there, like the 8th play-in seed team. That's what they're gonna be.
I don't see them ever developing into a championship team.
Nah, it's Memphis. You never know though, but it's Memphis. Like, this is year 2. Fighting for a playoff spot. A lot of young guys you just named struggled their first year to fight for a playoff spot, but he's the consistency is there. You see the impact he has when he's on the court. You see how good the team is with him on the court. So the chemistry is there, the continuity is there, so they're gonna have to grow. But when they got Ja Morant, they have been better. They have been fighting for a playoff spot back-to-back years. Hopefully they get in this year. They've been in the hunt in a very tough West. This is not this is not a cakewalk. This is a very tough West, and he's put on performances against a lot of the top point guards in the NBA. So it's not like he doesn't have the talent. But like you say, he's not there yet. He's got to get there yet. But that De'Aaron Fox take was terrible.
Hold on, shout out Valanciunas. He's been balling.
Nah, he's really good too.
Yeah, he's been
looks
balling.
like you.
Huh?
It looks like
What
you.
you look like?
De'Aaron Fox take is not terrible.
I didn't say no. I said the take was terrible. The take was utterly terrible.
De'Aaron Fox on the Grizzlies would win. I mean, he would win too.
I think so.
You don't think Fox is a winner? I think he has win in his blood.
How?
I just think so. He's won anywhere. He's won everywhere he's been outside of Sacramento.
Kentucky didn't win when he was there.
They won more than they did in Sacramento.
That's true.
It's not that hard.
Now, I'm just saying. De'Aaron Fox is sleeping on him, man. He's a killer. He's a killer. But we'll ask the audience that question when we put out the segment. Who do you guys think is better, De'Aaron Fox or Ja Morant? Put it down in the comments down below. Well, we'll see what they say. Ja Morant, I know, has a hype around his name, but we'll see.
We'll
see what happens.
Ja's the highlight reel. So
real basketball fans answer that question.
Shifting to the NFL. We're done for the NBA talk for the day. The NFL draft happened, and we're going to go over which teams had the best draft and which team had the worst draft. Each of us are going to name one team in specific that we feel like had the best draft. So we're going to start off with the best and go from the worst. So, Riv, tell me your team. Which team had the best draft in your opinion?
I got to go last. My thing can load up.
You're thinking a little up? Okay.
I'll go.
Okay, you can go first.
I'll go. First and foremost, for a lot of people that don't know, I am a Giants fan. And
should have never told the media that.
Don't worry about everything. I believe that we had a great draft. Well, I don't think it was the best draft out of the whole entire league. We had an amazing draft. That trade down was huge. Grabbing the Chicago pick, which could very well be a top 10 pick, it's great. So that's very well vested into my decision to put them close to one of the best drafts, especially with Tony's a beast. Anyways, back to the main point. The best draft was the Jets. I'll just say it first and foremost. I despise them. They're little bro to the Giants. That's just the way it goes. But their draft was it was amazing. They grabbed who they wanted in a sense, and they did it without any. There was no friction, and every pick just landed towards them in a sense. Like Elijah Moore grabbing him when they got him. Michael Carter is a stud. He's a stud. A lot of people didn't watch UNC, and if you did, next year Sam Howell was going to be an amazing quarterback. But going back to it, Michael Carter's amazing. Vera Tucker, that was a great pickup, and that's going to solidify the future for their offensive line, especially with Beekton there. And they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in a couple of years. I don't think this year is going to be the year where they're just going to jump into the playoffs right away. If they do, then props to them. They have the pieces. I don't think they're going to just fall into place just yet. But their draft was just phenomenal. I mean, you go down the list, they grabbed two safeties that I believe, Sherwood and Carter, that were great. Ecolis, the cornerback from Kentucky, was great value from when you guys grabbed him. Nazaruddin, I don't want to mess his name up, from Florida State, was also great. It was just an overall great draft, and you addressed offense, which was much needed. I mean, after watching what the Raiders did to you guys in that game, and it wasn't really supposed to happen, but it happened. There's a lot of holes that you guys filled, and that was just quintessential.
For me, I think this was hard to pick because three of these teams had similar drafts to me in terms of how good it was. I did not go with the Jets. I'm not going to be a homer on this episode, even though I think we did have a great draft. But the Vikings, to me, had a great draft. Drafting Christian Darrisaw with the 23rd pick. Then getting Kellen Mond, who I'm really high on. Wyatt Davis, a starting guard in this league. And Patrick Jones II, who I think can be a really good edge rusher for them if developed correctly. But then you have the Bears. The Bears drafting Justin Fields, who I'm not the highest on, but, he is in a good situation to develop. Then Tevin Jenkins, who's going to be a starting left tackle, plays really physical.
He's great.
Daz Newsome, wide receiver from North Carolina, played alongside Diami Brown. Then Larry Burham, who he fell to the Bears in the 5th round, I believe, and this guy had the lowest pressure percentage out of every single tackle in the draft. And Khalil Herbert, running back out of Virginia Tech. The Bears had a phenomenal draft, but also the Chargers, like Rashawn Slater, getting Justin Herbert's tackle for the future and Slater. Then Asante Samuel Jr., who is a perfect scheme fit for Brandon Staley's defense. I think, and these three teams had great, phenomenal drafts. I think they're cream of the crop in terms of how they drafted. I would probably give the edge to the Bears, honestly.
Really?
Yes, because I think the Bears getting Tevin, the Bears at every single pick they got these guys at, Tevin Jenkins, a first-round talent. Justin Fields could have easily went top 5. Then we look at Khalil Herbert, who can be a really solid back. Daz Newsome and Larry Burham. I think realistically, these guys are 5 starters that they got. I think the Vikings also did well with Darrisaw, Ahmad, and Wyatt Davis. But if we're talking about players who are going to make an impact year one right away, I think the Bears got the most NFL-ready guys. Kellen Mond is going to need some time to develop. So is Patrick Jones II for the Vikings. The Chargers, I think, outside of Rashawn Slater and Asante Samuel Jr., most of these guys are developmental guys like Trey McKitty and stuff. So I think in terms of NFL-ready guys day one right now, the Bears probably had the best one, honestly.
Bro, stole my pick. He stole
the
my
Bears,
pick.
really?
Yeah.
You too? Wow.
Yeah, I had the Bears having the best draft. Only because, when me and Joel was talking about this last week, he was telling me how, the Bears have never had a quarterback to, have, I think, was it 4K or 3K yards in the
4K
season?
passing yards.
4K passing yards in the season. And I was just doing my research, going over the quarterbacks they had. And, getting Justin Fields at that value was impressive because I'm high on Justin Fields. I think he can be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He can be one of the best quarterbacks in this draft. And not only with that, with getting offensive linemen after Justin Fields at the places they got him, I think that was impressive. Getting that need at quarterback, somebody that they need to build a future on, because they haven't had a superstar quarterback, and getting that was impressive. So I think them, and then not to mention, bro, getting Khalil Herbert, he had already said everything. Daz Newman. I don't think you mentioned Toga. Did you mention Toga, the defensive tackle they got around 7?
No, he's from BYU,
big guy, quick mover. He's good. I had to do, for me to do my research. But I think with this draft, the Bears did have a really good draft. Getting Justin Fields obviously was the number one thing, but filling up that offensive line because they already got weapons, I think that was the most impressive thing. And since it's my go again, I'm gonna tell you the worst draft. I think the Houston Texans easily had the worst draft just because of the simple fact that round 1 and round 2, we can all agree, had so much talent, and they didn't have a pick in those rounds. I think missing out on guys in the first round was terrible for them. Getting guys who we was drafting. We was on live for the first round. Getting guys that talented, superstar changes. Round 2, you had some guys who were still left that can be game changers. The Texans missing out on round 1 and 2 this year, I think it was really bad. And I think it's going to hurt them in their development because those guys could have been game changers and could have maybe pushed the needle on the Deshaun Watson situation. I'm not too sure, but losing out on that first 2 rounds was big for them, and I think that's why they're the losers of this draft.
honestly, I don't think anybody the Texans drafted would have changed where they were at. I mean, they drafted Davis Mills. That's the only thing you can really argue with. But Davis Mills, I don't think he's better than Kellen Mond. But I can understand why Davis Mills got drafted there, but I don't really think he's going to develop. I don't think he's going to be that good of a quarterback. So because of that, obviously that's why I don't think the Texans had a great draft. But they also had no picks.
Yeah.
But I'll say this. The worst draft was the Seahawks. They had 3 picks. They drafted Dwayne Eskridge. I think he's an okay receiver. He kind of resembles Tyler Lockett. And they drafted Trey Brown, cornerback out of Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma's had a history of having horrific defenses. And then they drafted Stone Forsythe, offensive tackle out of Florida. And, I don't know how good he is, but 3 guys. I mean, for this to be a successful draft for the Seahawks, all 3 of these guys have to pan out, basically.
I looked at the Seahawks as more of like an incomplete because you really can't grade them because they didn't have the picks to really grade a sense, especially a quintessential first round,
Mm-hmm.
And just to mention with the Bears and the Chargers, I think the Chargers did have a better draft on them only because of the gamble they took on Fields. If you're going to go out and get a quarterback the way they did it because you gave up the next first round pick. So now if Fields doesn't pan out next year or injury or something hard, you just lost a top 5 pick.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we really put the strings together, Dalton's not leading them anywhere. Fields right now, I don't think they're going to lead them anywhere. You're losing a top 10 pick to get Fields, so this better pan out in a sense. So because of the gamble and because of the of getting Slater and of getting, Asante Samuel Jr., that just to me, it just puts the security blanket for me, so that puts them ahead. Now going back to the worst draft, the Raiders are just for sure. For someone who had a first round pick and everything, they picked up Leatherwood, which I believe was just a reach and a half for no reason. Realistically, they had other needs and they had players that for those needs that were there, at linebacker as well, and they just decided to do what they do best and they just mess things up in whatever way they can. Now we'll give them credit. Moran was a great pickup as a safety from TCU. He's amazing. To me, that was a great pickup. I actually wanted him to follow the Giants. The Giants ended up trading back again, so on and so forth. Cons, they picked him up, which I believe was also a reach out of Buffalo. That didn't really make sense to me in a sense, considering they did need what they needed. And then he proceeded to draft more safeties after picking up Morik. So it's kind of like, where are you really leading this team for? What are you really doing? And then after that, I believe they picked up, they picked up a corner from Hobbs from Illinois, and then they picked up a center, Mauricio from Pittsburgh. All in all, that draft to me was more of, you're looking at that team, and we're going to get into this later with Aaron Rodgers, where you can make a change at quarterback and kind of put yourself in a position to kind of battle in that division. I don't think you're going to get anywhere with the teams that are there. But they didn't put themselves in a better position that they already were, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I don't think they got better. I don't think they did anything that has for the potential for the future to make themselves better than what they are now. And for that reason, I believe they had the worst draft.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the Raiders definitely had a bad draft. Out the Cowboys, too. I mean, they picked up a corner to Deshaun Wright, who said that he's faster or something, Richard Sherman, which is crazy.
Oh, that was that guy.
Yeah, he's ridiculous.
Deshaun Wright. So
a lot of people are faster.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, he fits the Cowboys. So
faster Richard Sherman. So we'll see what he turns into, but that's a lot of confidence for that guy.
Michael Parsons.
Like I said, man, some things are better left unsaid. He should have definitely never said that. But those are what we think were the best and worst drafts of the NFL. Draft period. And now moving on to Adam Schefter and this story about Aaron Rodgers. So basically, he reported on his draft day, Schefter did, that, let me get the tweet exactly so I'm reading exactly how it is because I don't want to mess it up. So he said, reigning MVP Aaron Rodgers is so disgruntled with the Green Bay Packers that he has told some within the organization that he does not want to return to the team. League and team sources told ESPN on Thursday. So, on the Dan Patrick Show today, Adam Schefter admitted that he decided to release the Aaron Rodgers story without any sources and decided to release it on draft day. Dan Patrick tried to, get him to talk more, and Schefter basically said, "Look, this is not coming from a source. This is just off of rumblings that he has heard." So he basically went off his gut feeling of what he thinks the situation is, and the reason why Schefter decided to report it on draft day of all days is because he figured it was going to come out eventually. So I'm guessing his thought process was he might as well be the first. And ironically, it was on draft day where ESPN possibly gets their most viewership and clicks and buzz around that day. And I mean, this tweet from Schefter got 105,000 likes on Twitter. So it obviously was big news. And, for me, I think the problem with this is that if Adam Schefter is just giving a take, I'm fine with it. But he specifically said league and team sources told ESPN, but that never happened. So that's where I think everything kind of went downhill, because he literally said league and team sources told ESPN when they in fact never did.
It's a bad situation because he's one of the most credible guys in football. He's not one of those guys that come out and make lies. He's one of the guys we follow up, him and Ian Rapper, like we follow up for real to get the information on NFL and news. And to come out and just kind of like put a little stain on his credibility, I don't know why he did it. I guess he did it just to heat up draft day or whatever, but it kind of puts a stain on his credibility in a sense, because now you come out and you lied on national television and you literally said league and team sources, and that you made it seem like other teams lied too. So now it looks bad on both parts. I still think he's gonna, everybody's gonna believe what he says. I still think he's gonna have that power where he can still, be credible. But I think people are gonna look back at this and say, well, this is something that's a stain on Adam Schefter. But I think he's done enough in his career where this is gonna go over in a couple years, maybe even a couple months. I think he's done pretty much enough where it's like people have done worse with little to no sources, and people have done worse without his credibility. So I think he'll be okay. It's just, this is something as of right now in the heat of the moment, off season, this is like, yo, bro, like, come on. Like, but with all the Aaron Rodgers stuff coming out, like, this is something that we need to be sure about, because he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, I agree. The frenzy that everything created with that on draft night, everybody was like, okay, who's trading up? Who's trading out? Who's sending picks over to Green Bay? And the crazy part about everything now that we know that there was no sources, that he was just saying it, it actually makes itself almost credible, because the Packers continually came out and said, well, we're not trading Aaron Rodgers. We're not doing this and that. But we already knew that there was turmoil in between the organization with Aaron Rodgers as well. So it just becomes more of a sense that, like, I believe that he did it, like you said, just to get it out there first. It was going to happen eventually. But everyone knew already that there was turmoil from the seasons before. Then Rodgers, I believe, I don't know who quoted him. I don't think it was Shefty. It could have been someone else, that he told his teammates that he doesn't plan on returning. I could be wrong by somebody else. But there's just turmoil all around, and I don't believe that it's going to be something that's going to transpire into the fact that it's going to change the outcome. I believe Aaron Rodgers still is either going to get dealt or he won't play.
Yeah, whether Aaron Rodgers does want out or he wants to stay in Green Bay is not really my problem with the entire situation. Because if he does in fact want to go, okay, some people can say, oh, then Schefter was right. But I don't think that was a problem. I think the problem is that Schefter reported on something that he didn't know was true or not. He's just reporting on something that he believes is his gut feeling. And this has created a ripple effect on Aaron Rodgers to the point where when this report first came out, oh, Rodgers is now a diva. Rodgers is now this. Then other people start reporting that, oh, Rodgers said it in a text message that Brian Gutekunst is Jerry Krause and he's MJ. And some people are now bashing Aaron Rodgers. And this is why Aaron Rodgers has repeatedly said that he hates the media, because it is a clickbait society. And I don't think it's a coincidence that on the biggest day that ESPN has yearly, which is the NFL draft, this report gets reported, because Schefter said that he's had this information sitting for weeks. He's heard rumors for weeks about this stuff, but he decided to do it on draft day when no league source or team source told him specifically, even though that's what he tweeted. And he even told Dan Patrick that nothing that morning came to me that made me release it. I just thought it was eventually going to get released, so I might as well have done it that day. I don't think it's a coincidence that he did that, but former Packer John Kuhn, who was a fullback, he was a pretty good fullback for them. He said that he has talked to Aaron Rodgers and they had a conversation, and there definitely is some frustration between him and the Packers organization. Like, that is true. Like, Rodgers is upset with how they have been building around him for the last couple of years, so that's definitely true. But I don't think that's the problem with the situation. The problem is that Adam Schefter is a credible guy, and he's supposed to represent what the media should be in terms of going about things the right way and reporting on things the right way. If Schefter is just coming out and saying whatever without any sources, what makes him more credible outside of his already, credible name than a regular Twitter guy that tweets out rumors, or a regular Instagram or football news page? What makes you any different if you're just going to go off of no sources? Nothing makes you different. These are the same guys that like to, try to, I guess, they try to hold the line for other journalists, aspiring journalists. These are the same guys that try to, kind of talk down on other people that break news, yet they're not using sources. So I think that's more of the problem than anything else. Of course, we know that Rodgers is frustrated. Yeah. Whether he wants out and is not going to return to the team, we don't know that.
Mm-hmm. What was this about?
Yeah, that was, I don't know.
And I'm in the heat of the moment, man.
I thought he was going to slam it.
Yeah, I thought he was going to slam it too. He just like...
Man, I can't slam it. I'm going to hit the mic. It's going to make a sound. Man, what was that about? Going to the bathroom and taking a leak,
that
man?
Was ridiculous.
Water.
Yeah, man, don't worry about my hand movements.
What's going on here?
No, but I think that's more of the problem that's happening with Aaron Rodgers right now. I think, it's messed up because I think Aaron Rodgers, from what I've seen on the Pat McAfee show, he looks like a chill dude. It looks like he keeps to himself, so.
He's a funny guy.
Yeah, I don't think he's this type of dude that the media has tried to portray him to be. I don't think he's that. And Pat McAfee has even, throughout this whole process has been defending him. And he's actually been getting backlash for that. So, I think this report has kind of ruined Aaron Rodgers' image to an extent. And I think that's not fair to him. And I think that's the bigger problem in this whole.
Yeah.
If any quarterback deserves to say what they need to say, I think it's the MVP, Aaron Rodgers.
100%.
So I recently saw a stat on Twitter or Instagram, one of those I believe, that there have been 3 teams that have not won a playoff game in the last 20 years. The Miami Dolphins, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Detroit Lions.
You said 20 years?
Yeah.
God damn.
The Browns were recently on that list, but they won a playoff game. So which team that hasn't won a playoff game in the last 20 years will win one first? The Dolphins, Bengals, or Lions? And another bonus question. Do you think any of them win a playoff game in the next 3 or 4 years?
Now, this is a tricky one because I feel like the Lions are going to, in the next 2 years, win like 3 games in 2 years, right? So it really comes down to the 2 teams that are in the same conference, the Dolphins and the Bengals. Now, the Bengals, it's getting spooky over there. They have a lot of young talent. That offense looks charged up. They got to fix a little bit of the defense up. On Miami side, that defense was elite last year. Very elite. Tua still got some kings to work. They just brought in Waddle. They got that tight end Mike Gesicki. Thank you. So it's tricky, but I'm looking at everything. I feel like right now Miami's division is a lot harder with the Patriots, the Jets, the Bills. I think the Bengals have an opportunity. No, I can't even say that because the Browns and the Ravens are right there too.
Pittsburgh's not going away.
I think right now I'm looking at the quarterbacks. I believe in Joe Burrow more than I believe in Tua right now. I think with that offense and Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, if he could stay healthy, Tyler Boyd, I think that offense can make some real noise. I think the defense is going to get better. I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they're the ones who do it. I think they win a playoff game before Miami and before Detroit. I think they'll win a playoff game in the next 2 or 3 years too.
Oh, mine is an easy decision. I think the Dolphins are almost knocking on the door. I don't know if they're gonna go this year and they're gonna go and win a game. If they do, it will be an upset. They're not gonna be favored in any game they go in the playoffs this year. I don't believe it is. I think the AFC is too I think they're too stacked on that side in the AFC. But that being said, like you said, I don't see the Lions at all in the next couple of years doing anything.
Jared Goff did get to a Super Bowl.
Oh, good job.
Yeah.
With the Ravens.
Yeah,
Dope.
yeah. I'm not
Aaron Donald.
acknowledging Jared Goff.
Gurley.
Yeah,
I don't know
that
who's
defense
there.
is just.
I don't know where they're at.
They just drafted Penei Sewell.
Hey, dope.
Yeah. Are we Can we compare defense?
Aaron
And
Donald.
Amon-Ra St.
Aaron
Brown.
Donald will run them over.
Yeah, the defense is alone is just gonna
Detroit
take
is
them
gonna
out.
win like 6 games in 3 years.
They might be the worst team in the league this year.
They're not gonna win a game.
Yeah, I think they probably will be one of them.
Yeah, if Deshaun doesn't play, then maybe the Texans have something to say for that. But going back to the question, the Dolphins are definitely going to be my choice. And you said within the next 3 to 5 years, you said?
Yes.
They'll win a game. I think they'll definitely be. They're young right now, but I think they'll be able to mesh with a couple more free agent acquisitions and a couple more draft picks. They'll definitely be able to win a game.
So for me, obviously, I'm knocking out the Lions pretty easily off this. I mean, the next time the Lions make the playoffs, not even win a game, the next time they make the playoffs, I'll probably have kids and an entire family. I know, Riv, you already have that, so you can't say that for yourself. But then we talk about the Bengals. You know, I can see them sneaking into the playoffs. It's just the division is so tough. Like the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, and the Browns. Like, do I think the Bengals are going to be winning that division in the next 3 years?
No.
I really don't see that. Can they fight for a wild card spot? Maybe, but I just don't see them making not even winning the playoff game, but like I don't see them making the playoffs in the next 3 years. I may be a little bit harsh, but I think in that 4th year they'll make it. You know, after they get some more free agent signings and some draft picks, but I think, it's pretty much wraps for them for now. And then the Dolphins, it seems like the most likely option because they just got Waddle, Will Fuller, Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki. Their defense is misleading. They did not allow a lot of points, but they did allow a lot of yards. They just didn't allow a lot of points. But, that can easily switch from one year to the next. But the Dolphins seem like the most realistic team because of Tua, and we'll see how he develops. But I've said it before. I don't think Tua's a franchise game-changing quarterback. I think he's a Jimmy Garoppolo guy. Like, he's just going to be a solid guy, what Jared Goff was to the Rams. Like, he can have a run like that. But I don't think he's an elite-level quarterback or can be that. And also, the AFC is tough. I mean, AFC East is tough. The Patriots, the Bills, the Jets with Zach Wilson because he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
I see what you tried to do there.
No
you tried
doubt
to
about
sneak
it.
your team in there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, like the Dolphins, I think the Dolphins for now, like for the next 2 years, they're going to be that team that is highly competitive. But because the Patriots seem to be back, they have Mac Jones, who is a better quarterback than Tua. Like,
yes,
I just think that it's going to be hard for the Dolphins to make the playoffs as well.
Wait, what'd y'all say?
Mac Jones is a better quarterback than Tua.
you
He
gotta
will
wait.
be a better quarterback.
Yeah, you guys. I like that better than he is. Right
So
now. You gotta
it's
wait
going
and
to be tough for the Dolphins not only to win a playoff game but to make the playoffs. So if I had to, of course I have to pick in this segment, but my gut feeling would be that none of these teams win a playoff game in the next 3 years. But if I were to pick one, it would probably be the Dolphins just because of where I see them at. But I don't think any of them do it.
And I agree with you I'm not high on Tua at all. I have a couple Dolphin friends that they're very high on him, and obviously so, they're fans, but let's be realistic.
I think we can all agree that we're high on Joe Burrow.
Huh?
We're high on Joe Burrow though.
Yeah.
No, I'm high on Joe. I think Joe Burrow is a star.
Yeah.
Bang, bang, bang.
Me too.
I think he's a star.
Looking at the AFC, Buffalo, Miami, New England, they're gonna fight. Tennessee, the Colts, they're gonna fight. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cleveland, they're gonna fight. Kansas City, the Chargers, maybe Denver, they're gonna fight. So it's gonna be a real tough AFC this year. But I think, I think Joe Burrow being so much better than Tua in year one, and I think he's already gonna have that projection of being one of those superstar quarterbacks. I could trust and put my faith in the fact that he can get them to the playoffs and get them a win.
The thing with me is that the Lions, we know they're dysfunctional.
Oh,
and
yeah, we're not even.
I actually like their coaching staff and the direction they went in this past draft, but I just don't think they have the talent. The Bengals, I just think it's going to take at least 2 years until they build up that offensive line. Like, I think 2 more seasons until they build up that offensive line to be a good to great one. And their defense, I think they got worse with their secondary this past season. So we'll see what happens there. Like, the Dolphins seem like the most complete team. but I just don't think they have the quarterback that's at that level. I think Joe Burrow and the Dolphins, I think they're the second best team in the AFC East, might win the division. Like, I think Joe Burrow is that special because he's so good at reading defenses. But, that's the thing with me, It's really tough to pick between these three teams. It really is. Mm-hmm. Even tough to pick the Lions because the Lions, it's just tough to pick between the Dolphins and the Bengals, honestly.
Yeah, it's it's a tricky situation. Both divisions are very tough. Obviously the East having the Jets, bottom feeders. So it's really just the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Patriots. And then in the North, Pittsburgh is going to always be there, but we don't know how Big Ben's going to play coming in. Baltimore, we know they're going to be ready. Cleveland, we know that draft they just had, they're going to be ready. So it's going to be tough in Cincinnati, but I think, we look at the AFC West, I think we can all agree the Raiders aren't going to make the playoffs, or we don't think the Raiders are going to be that good.
I don't have no expectation.
Denver, we don't know. They can go up, they can go down,
With Teddy, maybe.
Yeah, it's like a 50-50. I think the Chargers, we expect them to make a push. And then, the South, we think the Texans and the Jaguars are completely out of it. So it's...
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I think the Jags are going to be better than the Titans next year.
Oh, is that you're saying that?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I can't wait for you.
I like this.
Wow. Okay, first dumb take of the year. Got it.
Oh, we'll see.
There's that. But yeah, like I said,
you're a Tannehill fan.
I love Tannehill. They lost a lot.
Yeah. All right, back to the reality. The Titans and the Colts, I think they'll be fighting. Wow, you really said that.
Nah, I can't. I don't want to continue this topic no more.
What's wrong with you?
That's ridiculous.
You really believe that?
Their talent is good. I don't know what you're talking about.
You didn't even see the talent play yet.
Marvin Jones Jr., he's a dog.
He's a dog?
He plays 5 games a year.
He is.
He's all right.
DJ Chark is good. Laviska Shenault showed flashes. James Robinson and Travis Etienne in that backfield. Trevor Lawrence, if he's the guy.
One game.
Trevor Lawrence, if he's the guy that we think he is.
Who'll get him to 10 wins immediately?
Not 10. Titans will not win 10 wins this year. They will not win 8 games.
Okay, but you look at the conference though.
The Jaguars will win 8 games?
No, we said the division. The Colts. This house is going to be the Colts, Jaguars, Titans, and Texans. That's what it's going to be.
Wow, you think the Titans going to be at the bottom?
Texans?
No. What'd you say?
They're going to be third.
Oh,
Texans will be last.
Oh, yeah, I can't
Titans
wait.
will be third.
Okay.
Jags will be second. They have a really good offensive line, and their defense, Josh Allen, Kalavion Chason, I think signing Shaq Griffin, having Miles Jack still there, they got a lot of talent.
We'll see.
A lot of talent.
Tennessee at 3, Jacksonville at 2 for you.
I'm telling you, Tennessee is not going to be that good.
That ETN pick was just so, I don't know. Their one bright spot for me was James Robinson last year, and then they went ahead and drafted him high. So
they also signed Tyson Campbell. I drafted Tyson Campbell, was a really good corner out of Georgia. So, I'm telling you, they got some dogs, bro.
Georgia boy.
They got some dogs. Don't sleep on the Jags.
No, I'm sleep, okay? I ain't gonna lie, I'm knocked.
Don't be surprised, man. I'm telling you. That's how I see the division shaping out.
So you got Colts,
Jags, Titans, Texans.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I have Colts, Titans, Jaguars.
Titans had one of the worst defenses in the league last year.
And they still won 11 games.
Yeah, and then they lost Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, that's true. But they have that big beast at running back. So I think
with the weakened offensive line, we'll see what happens.
Well, Jacksonville, you're relying on Trevor Lawrence, who hasn't played a lick of NFL
I'm relying
football.
on the talent they have on that team.
A lot of talent.
Marvin Jones, DJ Chark, James Robinson, Travis Etienne.
That same talent you named won a game last year. They won a game. Like, they had one win.
Yeah,
but their defense, their quarterback.
Yeah, quarterback has so much to do with that. So realistically,
Trevor Lawrence is going to get them how many wins?
I'll take the under at 6.
Okay, so you're taking the under?
No, I'll take over 6.
Over 6.
Yeah, okay. 6 is the minimum they'll win.
So 6.5. You're taking the over.
You're taking the 6.5.
So they're gonna win 7 games.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
They'll be better than the Saints.
Book it.
Okay.
Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be Andrew Luck, so if he is, then yeah.
You said Zach Wilson was better.
He is. Right. If Zach Wilson was on the Jags, they would make the playoffs. They'll be a lock.
All right, yeah. Next topic.
That's why the Jags are so good.
The
Jets are gonna be so good.
We were butting heads last year about the same thing. He didn't think Herbert was gonna be what he was, and I thought he was, and we both agreed on Tua. We both weren't that high on Tua. He was a little higher than me though at the beginning of the year. But this year, I think we agreed on most of the picks.
What was that bad take you had about that quarterback?
Who?
I think you had a really bad take about him.
Me?
Yeah.
No, the take that was taken out of proportion. We could speak on that.
Yeah. Oh, no, he said Jake Fromm.
Yeah. So the take that was taken out of proportion because I said, and I was wrong about Tannehill. It had nothing to do with Jake Fromm. I said that his the way he plays gave me Jake Fromm vibes. They were just so nonchalant. The way they played, there was nothing.
That's
a lie. The tweet was that Jake Fromm can do what Tannehill is doing right now.
Yeah, and I believed that because I just didn't have I had zero faith in Tannehill. But that was before the 2 breakout.
I mean, I did not even think Jake Fromm was I did not even think Jake Fromm was an NFL quarterback. I still don't think so.
I was more bashing Tannehill.
I think he's a career backup.
Yeah, no, I was bashing Tannehill more than believing in Jake Fromm because we both knew Jake Fromm was never a quarterback. But it was more of a bash towards Tannehill.
Yeah, I mean, I love Tannehill, but the Titans,
he's horrible.
The Titans got worse on the offensive line. They lost Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis. They did not get a second receiver to complement them. They're still going to have one of the worst defenses in the league last year. I mean, this upcoming season, I think they're going to take a huge drop off, no doubt about it. But that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast, episode number 83. So as always, if you guys want to rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts, you can, and give us 5 stars. We're almost at 30 reviews right now. We're at 26. And, this was a good episode. Sebastian, first time being on the show. Riv, coming here prepared. I like it. So it was a great show all around. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.